2021. Time is 5:31 p.m. And let me see, do we have any?
I would like Ernesto Barraza to come up and lead us in the pledge.
Yes, Mr. Barraza.
Yeah, come up here, sir.
Mr. Barraza, would you be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States pledge? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, sir. All right, that takes care of items 1A and B and C. Sonia, can you please call roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Coronado.
Here.
Mr. Hernandez.
Here.
Mrs. Mendoza.
Here.
Mr. Payan.
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Present.
Mrs. Searles.
Here.
And Mrs. Trout.
For Ms. Trout Calder with family.
All right. Then that takes us to 1E. CISD mission and vision statements. And Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Rodriguez kind of think.
Yeah, I'll read the vision. Santiago ISD is a premier district preparing tomorrow's best today with innovative, future-focused learning opportunities for every student.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our mission is to create rigorous student-centered classrooms which develop future-ready students to compete in a global economy and thrive in a multicultural world.
Thank you, both of you, for reading those. That takes us to the next agenda item, Dr. Galiz. Trustee ethical guidelines that we are committed to discuss one of those every board meeting, so.
Today, ethical guideline is 4, which is integrity of character. 4.2, I will consistently uphold all applicable laws, rules, and policies and governance procedures.
Okay. That's pretty broad. But it's pretty complete. So,
Board member, like to chime in on importance of 4.2.
really the overriding guide for us is that, you know, not only when we take the oath of office after we're elected, we actually sworn in to uphold all the laws of the state, United States, the Constitution, and of the state of Texas. So that's the only thing that this adds, other than our oath that we take when we get sworn in, is that we're also going to abide by the governance procedures, both in the state of Texas and by the local board policies. So, Mr. Rodriguez.
Just in regards to this, of course, the Texas Education Code has in-depth description of this, and so it's important for us not only as we become board members, but before we become board members to understand the law, duties and responsibilities, as well as all applicable laws even when we run for office.
Good point. And when it speaks of all laws, that includes obviously the Education Code, Constitution, and all laws as passed by the state. And of course, any other local, government agencies that would pass laws that are applicable to. Yes, sir.
I do. We just recently have pretty much concluded our corrective action plan with the state. And in so doing, I believe it was just the last board meeting, we revised and reviewed our ethical standards and then came up with this document, which is now our new, if you don't comply with the rules, these are the things that could happen. And I noticed that some of our rules had changed. And I was looking at the part after preparation of the board meeting agenda, conflict of interest procedures. And I had asked specifically that we would all make sure we signed the conflict of interest statement. I signed mine, passed it over. In that, we've got letter 1F. A board member voting for or against any measure if they have received a campaign contribution from a party wishing to benefit from the vote. That's something we've never had before. So I think we need to find a way to, incorporate that as, we've got this campaign coming in. Have we taken a campaign contribution from you? Yes or no? Go through forward, and if that's the case, then I guess, does that board member then excuse themselves? Then they can stay, they just don't vote.
They just don't vote.
Even though we said they can?
That's a board operating procedure, it's not legal restraint, it's a board member activity, so if you have 3 guys as board members, police yourself in there.
Well, this is what this document's saying, to police ourselves, and that would be ourselves policing it, or all of this must mean nothing. So I think it's something, Mr. Flannel, that we need to come up with a procedure, how we're gonna handle that.
Dispose of?
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing, and we did discuss this at the LSG initially when we went to the LSG process for this, the ethical guidelines. And it was mentioned that, it's kind of, I'm trying to remember who was and made the point that what if it is a family member, either that's making donations or whatever, but the family member provides in the district, will that be a double potential, right, as a board member? But for example, anybody that gives a donation, would that exclude, and especially happens, I guess, in small districts where there's vendors that are probably either related, friendships or whatever that donate to the board campaign board members. And are we precluded from them voting on anything that comes up before that? My opinion, no. Otherwise, we'd have to disqualify a lot of people that from the community that would vote if they have anything before the board, including employees, anybody like that. So,
Well, we
I
do
mean,
have.
we should maybe
It's
we
written.
disclose that, but I don't know about.
And it says before each board meeting, this is what we're gonna, after preparation of the agenda.
Right.
And it goes into, even if you got anything that was valued at $1.
But that pertains to the board members, not elections, sir.
Yes, sir, this is a public board meeting, not for the public at large to discuss.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Not a problem, sir.
if you would like to,
I've done,
Have a
I apologize, I'm done, thank you, sir.
okay,
Go ahead.
all right. And Ms. Earls, I understand we can go over that if you'd like, but
But it seems
This
like it
is-
would be easy enough to, in our ethics here, this is we're consistently upholding all applicable laws,
Laws.
rules, policies, and governance procedures. This is a procedure that really stood out to me, and I think we need to probably have some kind of, signage sheet at the beginning, something, I don't care. But just that we check the box, that we all know we haven't taken any campaign contributions, because it's not like you work or something. It's a different story. So I'd like to, at our next meeting, possibly have maybe you and Dr. Galavis come up with a good solution.
or any item that's on the, well, you can either do that, or
Like
at the time that the item comes up,
my
board member
husband's
can
company
disclose that.
wanted to do business.
Excuse me?
If my husband's company had given me a campaign contribution,
Right.
and he wants to do business with the district, it's gonna benefit from my vote.
Well, that's different.
Well,
because
that's,
there's
yeah,
a
you're right, that
relationship.
is, that's.
I'm talking about anybody
But-
out in the
yeah.
public that's not related to you. Because those are different.
What about the
guidelines.
people at Walmart? They gave me a campaign contribution, and now they wanna be hired for whatever.
Well, they can't, because that's corporation.
Well, I'm just, like, it's
Yeah,
not.
it has to be, it
I
has
think
to
you
be
understand.
individual.
I think you, no, I think
You cannot accept
from a
contributions.
party, it's a party wishing to benefit from the vote.
I know, but we cannot accept as board members on campaign contributions from corporate entities.
Well, if they want to do business with our, it's pretty clear.
Yes,
A board member voting for or against any measure if they have received a campaign contribution from a party wishing to benefit from the vote. It's very clear, and I don't want to muddy it up. So, Dr. Galavis, you think anything else?
we can certainly work on getting something
Thank you.
that we can.
And that would keep us in compliance with our, our board member ethics, and now our other, these are all the checkpoints.
Sure. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
you bet. Anybody else?
I would just, one thing that we need to also add on to is, if you're running, you have to file your campaign finance reports. I believe there's some board members that have never filed that, have received and have spent over more than 500. That is required by law, so that's also important to actually follow campaign finance. So,
Certainly, those are state rules that need to be followed and also, so. Okay. Anybody else? All right,
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Can
Rodriguez.
we get like an estimated timeline on when the recommendation Mr. Earls had can come to the next future board meeting?
We can certainly take it up at the next time we discuss the LSG training to review it. We can do that at the next board meeting. I don't think we're meeting in July, that's probably August. Okay. So we'll make a note of that, Dr. Galvin. Okay. All right, okay, that takes us to the next agenda item, Sonia.
Yes, sir, it is open forum. And I believe we have 5 speakers that are wanting to address the board during open forum. And 3 more people want to address the board during public comment for the ESER
Okay.
item. First speaker is Elizabeth Bettis.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Bettis and I've been teaching 31 years. I will start with the same disclaimer that I started last time. Our attorneys have already been forewarned that we would be attending this meeting. If any one of us gets reassigned, retaliated against, intimidated, we will have proof of a pattern of retaliation against those who speak up, like the nurses, NHS teachers, counselors, and ourselves. We pray for you. We really do. We say, Lord, make them righteous. People of faith. People who help, not destroy. People who are truly righteous without satisfying their carnal desires of advocacy, of stealing, maiming, and harming this community. Lord, if they are people of right, who do right and truly help the children and the workers of this community, have them stay in the school board to do good. But if they are stealing from this community and teachers, have them be dispersed and become nothing. You see, we are aware that thousands, not thousands, but millions of dollars were dispersed to each and every district by TA a year and a half ago, and 13 million more in the American Rescue Plan Act will be added this year. These monies, called ESSR Relief Fund, were distributed in 3 separate allotments to be given to its employees for COVID relief. We know that all districts have given their employees these monies. We know that Socorro ISD has already given 3,000 of these monies to each and every one of their employees, and will be adding a $2,000 more for a total of $5,000 this upcoming school year, plus 4% pay raise. We know that CISD only promised to pay its employees a one-time 2,000 ESSR stipend with a 2% pay raise. How can this be so? We are the smallest district, serving the least amount of students, 6,000 students in total, paying the highest property tax in the state of Texas. We are higher than Houston, Austin, San Antonio, and Dallas. Shouldn't paying more render us more? Where are the monies going? Who are they going to? Are they going to our children and teachers in our district? Or are they going to fill the pockets of our district? You must be held accountable. You must stop hurting our community. Stop your dealing. Stop the abuse. Stop the stealing.
Speakers William Maldonado.
All right, Ms. Maldonado.
Ms. Sonia, can I ask you not to start the time until I pass these out, please, to the board members?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just passing out some information that takes news based on what I want to talk about. Good evening and good afternoon, or good afternoon and good evening to all of you. Dr. Galavis, nice to see you. Myself. Would you like one? Sure. Thank you. I need to keep one for myself. Sorry, Dr. Curry.
We'll share.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Good afternoon or good evening, board members, Dr. Galavis. First, thank you for recognizing the challenges of both teaching and learning for both teachers and students during a pandemic. And thank you for the stipend. Through dedication, loyalty, and perseverance, I believe all of us enjoyed success as evidenced through the data just received of the 5th and 8th grade math and reading star results. It is because of this dedication and loyalty from teachers that I come before you in support of my colleagues in grades kinder through 3rd. Under HB 3, which is what I have given you, the district decided to pilot the state-mandated reading academies this year on top of the challenge of the pandemic. Bad timing. Teachers in these grade levels have spent endless hours after a long day of teaching on weekends, holidays, spring break, and now their summer break to comply with the requests of completing 12 modules. One module can take up to 6 hours to complete. All modules are due by July 12th. These modules require chapters and chapters of reading, artifacts, assessments, reflections, etc., almost as if you were back in college. Yet they are not being compensated. Yes, there is a one-time, I repeat, one-time, $80 professional development stipend. But Human Resource has decided that in order for you to get that $80 one-time stipend, you must complete the module on campus. These academies take 11 months from the date started to complete, and yet the district is offering a one-time $80 stipend with certain criteria. What does HR think they are going to do? Take the money, the $80 and run and not complete the modules? It's not how it works. If you read the information I have given you. Once they start it, they must complete it. There's no ifs or buts about it. Yes, they have been allowed 3 days during intercession break to work on these modules. And a 45-minute daily prep time is not for completing reading modules. It's for planning of daily teaching. Bottom line, they have to complete these modules on their own personal time. There is a math training coming up for middle school. And the district is proposing to increase a 3 90-minute session stipend from $80 to $1,000, which I don't have a problem with. I do not have a problem with if the money is there. However, what's wrong with this picture? 11 months, 6 hours to complete one module for $80 versus 3 90-minute sessions for $1,000. I believe these teachers deserve a stipend for completing these reading academies. After all, those 5th grade results could not happen if these lower grade teachers did not set the foundation. So please consider doing something about this. The adoption of the budget is coming up shortly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Mata. All right,
Good afternoon, board members. Hope you all are doing great. I am here because last time that we were here, or that I was here, you guys did an audit on the police department here in Dallas, and I wasn't happy with the results. I don't think you guys were specific enough about the discrepancies, quote unquote, that you guys found. I think the public deserves to know more and what they were. But also my son was here last week and we didn't get a chance to speak, 2 weeks ago, whenever the meeting was. And I want to read his email because he did email all of you guys, nobody responded. I understand he's in middle school and maybe you felt it wasn't proper. But I would have appreciated, he would have appreciated, and he could not be here today. And I'm just going to go ahead and read his email, and I hope that you listen. Heed the warning that he's giving you guys. You're not only listening to parents, now you're listening to students. See a lot of students here today. And that they are the ones that matter. I understand that the budget was really, really high, $750,000 was spent, and you all thought it was so much money. But some of the board members have spent so much money on themselves, on travel expenses, on things that are not needed. And the schools really need that money. Not the board, not this building, the schools, the teachers, the counselors, the nurses. They're the ones that matter. And I hope that you all listen to what my son is saying, what we are saying, and honestly, what God is trying to tell you guys. Because that's who I am right now. I am an ambassador of Jesus Christ, and I come on his behalf, not on my own. And that before I am a Latina, before I'm Hispanic, before I'm black, white, whatever it might be, I'm a Christian. And that is what I'm speaking about. My heart belongs to him, and it belongs to all of you guys and to my community. I grew up here. I know some of you guys personally. So I wish and I hope, that's my prayer, that you guys hear and abide our warnings today. And I'm going to go ahead and read his email. Dear board members, hello, my name is Silas Reyes, and I am a student here at Canofio Middle School. Now, when I heard that you were having a meeting about potentially getting rid of police, or maybe moving them from campuses for them to be a lot less, I was very upset. I just wanted to let you know what I thought about this, and so you could hear from a student as well as parents. I do not think that it is a good idea. I like how things are now. Cops save lives. They risk their lives for us, and I don't think people appreciate them as much as they should. The cops make people feel safe. I would not feel or be safe if the cops drove 3 to 5 minutes to get to the school if there is a criminal. God put these cops there for a reason. I am sure that other kids feel safe when the police are there. My cousin even told me that he is not scared of the police and that his friends and him high-five the police when they pass by. And I want to stop here really quick because last time that the person that did the audit was here, he said that there was no relationship with the students or that they didn't know what they were doing. That's a lie. I have witnessed it in many different departments or schools. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this. And they are not afraid of them. They're not scared of them. If you keep the police in the schools, it can save many lives in dire situations. I go to the homecoming parade, and they're always there. And I'm from the Upper Valley Longhorns, he's from the Upper Valley Longhorns, and I love to see the police by our side and other folks keeping the peace.
I'll give you 15 more seconds to complete.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and skip to the bottom. You guys have the email, and I hope that you read it. They got there in less than 3 minutes. They did a bunch of tests here at Garcia Elementary. That's where he was attending at the time, because they were close to it. But wouldn't it be better if they were just there already? I just love the police being involved in the community parades and other stuff, like the homecoming parade, which I mentioned already. Kids have developed relationships with our police officers. The officers are there for the kids. We are not afraid of them. It's good, and it's good for the schools. I love the police. It's a choice to be a police officer. They risk their lives for us. And with that, I'm going to just say, please let the police stay at the school in our community, in the community as well. It's very important. Thank you for your time, and God bless.
Thank you for your comments. All right.
Good afternoon. I wish I was here to speak to the board members, but I'm actually here to speak to the parents and the taxpayers about everything that's going on. Today we started off with the meeting with the reading that said about accountability and integrity. All I hear right now is lack of. All I hear is retaliation. We had a teacher here, 31 years, talking about the retaliation. Yet this board sits here and worries about people taking too long speaking, looking at everybody's faces and seeing who's here. They're shocked that I'm here. Look at their responses. Mr. Rodriguez, when Ms. Trump mentioned something about integrity, about taking Ms. Cyril, sorry about that, I apologize. When Ms. Cyril said something about taking money, contributions, you should have seen the look on your face. You started to shake. And when you start, Mr. Coronado started saying, well, it's about small school districts. We're not talking about other school districts. We're talking about this one, Mr. Coronado. Please. Thank you. I apologize. I will go ahead and stop my voice. Thank you, sir. And anyway, parents, please. I still have time.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please listen to me. Please do not yell.
I apologize once again. Well, my voice is down. So parents, once again.
Sir. Sir?
Hold my time. Can you stop my time, please?
Stop this time. Stop this time. You need to be respectful. That's part of the rules of you becoming an open forum.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for asking me. I will not.
Please do not yell. You can direct us.
Gotcha, sir.
I agree. I will. You have to be respectful.
May I continue?
You may continue.
Thank you, sir. So, parents, I ask you here not just to come to meetings and just say, well, I came to a meeting. We don't want these dog and pony shows. We want our voices to be heard, do we not? Do we want these board members to actually do what we ask them? Do we not? I ask you, every single one of you, and I can't say it loudly because I won't be allowed to talk. I ask you to hold every single one of these people accountable because Mr. Coronado does not like me to point at him. I will look this way. We have to understand that sometimes school members, not just school members, elected officials, yes, Mr. Coronado, I'm speaking to you. Sometimes we sit in positions for too long.
Yes.
We're here too long. And we forget why we were elected. And we decide to put what we want first. But guess what? This is a school district. Who comes first here today? Who comes here first? Our children. Mr. Coronado and Mr. Rodriguez, I'm here to remind you that our kids come first. And I'm here to tell you that I'm sick and tired of retaliation. I'm sick and tired of hearing all of this. Our children are our future. And if you guys can continue to ignore these parents and ignore our children, we will hold you accountable. The retaliation is not just to the parents and to the teachers who've been teaching for 31 years. It's also to the law enforcement agents who speak up. You know what I speak of.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks.
I'm an MD with a Master's in Public Health. I'm currently a PhD. Enjoy again to have that connectivities and to have that direct education from them. Also to, of course, to secure the health and the education of the students. So feel free to reach out to me. I will probably like to create focus groups, talk to the parents, and also look for what opportunities do you see that we can create interventions for all the students in the school. So thank you so much for the space and the time, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Item number 3, board honors. Ms. Rodriguez.
Good evening, Ms. Rodriguez. How are you?
Good evening, Board President Coronado, members of the board, Dr. Galaviz. Can you please join us in front of the dais to begin our monthly board recognitions?
This is so strange to be back here, guys. I can't even tell you.
I feel like it's a first date.
Okay, item 3A. Tonight we honor a select group of students who have achieved the highest academic honors of the class of 2021. 363 seniors from Canutillo High School walked across the stage on June 9th to receive their diplomas. The Canutillo High School class of 2021 received over $2.4 million in scholarships. Congratulations to our 2021 high school valedictorian, Andrea Contreras, who will attend the University of Texas at El Paso in the fall. Ms. Andrea Contreras was also a Terry Scholar. Congratulations.
Yes.
Parents? Would her parents like to join in the photo?
Can you guys get in a little closer?
Yes.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And our Canutillo High School salutatorian, Eric Valdez, unable to attend today, will be attending Notre Dame in the fall. Can Ms. Clapsaddle,
Congratulations from us.
Yeah.
Please. I will. Thank y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
No, and he's on a full academic
Yeah,
scholarship to
this
Notre
is
Dame
a
as
first.
well.
Ever.
Correct. So, thank you.
On the evening of May 27th, 80 of our seniors from Northwest Early College High School walked across the stage to receive their diplomas. The class of 2021 from Northwest received over $6.3 million in scholarships. Let's congratulate our salutatorian, Liana Estrada, who will be attending the University of Texas at El Paso.
Parents?
If you want to get right in the middle, so you have right around the side. Mr. Rodriguez, can you go more?
This way.
Yeah, right there in the middle. 1, 2, 3. Congrats.
Congratulations.
On behalf of our good friend, the valedictorian, Haley Wetton, that was unable to be here today because she's actually at BYU, where she'll be attending this fall. Congratulations, Haley Wetton. Item 3B. Successful schools begin by engaging students and making sure they come to school regularly. School attendance is a baseline factor in determining student success. Improved student attendance, daily engagement, and support were especially emphasized by Dr. Galaviz and staff this past year. Therefore, we'd like to recognize the following campuses for having the highest attendance average for the 2021 school year. AMS, who is led by the humble leadership of Principal Avila, wins for secondary with a yearly average of 97.12. Congratulations, Ms. Avila. We know this year was unlike any other.
You guys right in the middle. Okay. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Yes.
Congratulations. And for the elementary winner, it is Reyes Elementary. Principal Carrillo couldn't attend due to her appointment to the Talas Executive Board and is currently in Austin. She thanks the board for this recognition of the Red Hawks team, students, and parents. On her behalf, to receive the award is school counselor Michelle Escobedo and teacher of the year, Nancy Hess. And Reyes Elementary won with an unbelievable yearly average of 98.36.
Oh my God.
Congratulations.
One, two, three. Congrats.
Congratulations, baby. Moving on to our next award. Congratulations to the Canotillo High School Choir and Band Program for getting a first division in regional competition and qualifying for this year's state UIL solo and ensemble competition. The results are as follows. First division state qualifier, Arisa Love.
Mr. Ramos, you need to come up here too.
Yeah.
Dr. Ramos, I apologize.
First division state qualifier, second division silver UIL state, Timothy Noha. First division state qualifier, first division gold UIL state, Abner Astudillo. First division state qualifier, first division gold UIL state, Lily Garcia.
And as a side note, drum major of the band now.
Oh, wow.
First division state qualifier, first division gold UIL state, Nain Juarez. First division state qualifier, first division gold UIL state, Amanda Mata. First division and second division Division Silver in State UIL, Esteban Aguilar. Congratulations, Band Director Regino Ramos, Choir Director Guillermo Adame, who's not able to attend today, and all of their talented Eagles. Keep up the good work.
Can we go over here? Can we push more to the right? Right there. There you go. Ready, guys? 1, 2, 3. Take one.
Congratulations, everyone. Our next recognition is extraordinary and very special. Some people claim that our society is losing its sense of moral and ethical responsibility. However, good deeds often work to prove this perception wrong. CISD is proud to share that one of our students recently set an example for doing the right thing, even when temptation could have swayed him toward the wrong thing. It was an early morning at Canotillo High School as the year was wrapping up. Ernesto Barraza was at CHS taking care of end-of-year tasks. Benjamin Borjas had just received money, $809 to be exact, from his parents to pay for books and buy his school laptop to use for college. The money also came with a lengthy lecture about how to be responsible with his wallet and the money he was carrying. Ben assured his parents he would be extra careful. However, to Ben's surprise, as he tried to pay for his laptop, he realized he didn't have his wallet. Please turn your attention to the screen.
Hi everyone, my name is Benjamin Borjas. I just graduated in the class of 2021. I would like to thank everyone for being there. I couldn't be here today because I work, unfortunately. But I wanted to thank Ernesto so much for turning in my wallet that had so much money in it and for saving me a load of pain from my parents and myself. And I want to thank you so much because it's a hard task to do, to turn in someone's wallet that has so much money and for you not to take not even a dollar. It's just amazing, and it takes a special person to do that. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. So thank you very much.
Entire Canotillo ISD community, thank you for being a role model for all of us.
Grandmother. Yo le tomo el foto.
How about your brothers?
Yeah, let me get the picture. So you can get the picture. Oh, I'll do both.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Congratulations. last honor. The El Paso County Judge Office has called on all entities, organizations, and businesses near and far to participate in a month of unity and healing, to help light a path toward goodwill as we approach the second anniversary of the senseless and horrific tragedy that fell on our community on August 3rd, 2019. The series of events, conversations, and activities will take place from July 3rd to August 3rd, as El Paso County plans to unveil a healing garden on August 3rd. San Mateo ISD is proud to announce we declare July 3rd through August 3rd as a month of unity and healing. Thank you.
Alright, so yeah, next agenda item.
Yes, sir. Item number 4, public hearing regarding adoption of the 2021-2022 budget. 4A, public hearing regarding the proposed 2021-2022 annual budget, and the public is invited to attend and provide public comment.
Mr. Persky, welcome.
Good evening, Board President Coronado, members of the board, Dr. Galaviz. Tonight is we're here to present your fiscal 21-22 budget. I'm going to defer to my associate, Ms. Pulley.
Good afternoon, board. We have we'll start with our budget.
I'm sorry, put the microphone closer up so we can hear you.
Better?
Alright.
Is that better?
Is it on?
Is that better?
Yes.
That's better.
The presentation that we have prepared for you, we have added a little bit of information. It is similar to the budget workshops that we have been coming to you when we came during the year. And we'll just kind of go over a few of the slides a little bit more in detail and just kind of skim over others that you've already seen before. Our budget priorities, we did include, we do have a balanced budget. We are including a 2% compensation package, which is about $880,000. Our staff and admin cost ratio is at about 11.5. We are reserving $1.1 million for our next payment for our maintenance tax notes. We are going to fund COVID-related expenditures out of ESSER 3, which will be presented to you in a little bit. And then our facilities maintenance that we may need, anything that's related to COVID will come out of that. Has been is not adjusted. This is our true ADA. It has not been adjusted for the hold harmless, which TA is offering to us for the year. The 2022 is based on the demographic study that was done, and that is what we're using as our budgeting tool for this coming school year, and that's going to be $6,274. Our projections for the campuses, we currently budgeted the campuses at, what we did is we rolled over every school, every grade level up one, and we kept the average of pre-K and kinder for the past 3 years, and that's how we funded the schools. However, we did build the budget around the $6,274, and we have that in reserve, and we will make any adjustments to campus budgets once we go through snapshot in October, and we'll true up the campuses based on the actual enrollment. Our property tax values, we did use we do have our preliminary values, which were released to us in April. we did told us is that they have, last year they remained, all the residential properties remained steady. So they did increase those a bit for this year. So they kind of increased them more this year. However, they don't know whether they'll protest or not. So we'll see what the results are once they release their certified values in July. Our tax rate is going to be issued by TA. It's going to be our compressed rate. Will be released by TA, and that's going to be released in August, and it'll be set for adoption in September for our M&O. Currently, our property taxes are based on a projected 4% increase in our tax rate, in our projected values, which results in about 0.9787 for our M&O tax rate, and that's what we built our budget around. We may need to come and amend our property tax revenues once we actually receive our tax rate from TA. Our allocations by campus, those I believe you have seen before, and there hasn't been a change. Our campus allocations still remain the same. Our function 11 instruction, you can see the trend in the increase of, function 11 is for our instructional purposes, and you can see the increase from year to year on our adopted budget. Our administrative cost ratio, we have tried to maintain this ratio at a level in order for us to get the maximum points on our first rating, which is a 10. Currently, we are anticipating for the fiscal year 21 to be at 9.6. However, this is based on an inflated budget, not necessarily inflated budget, but because we did the large expenditure for student devices, that helped us with getting our ratio in line. So we do anticipate to have a 9.6 ratio and be able to obtain the maximum points on our first rating. However, our 2022 rating rate has increased. This was requested to provide additional instructional support from CNI in our function 21. The next one is our general fund, and we do anticipate to end this year in a positive balance. A portion of that positive balance is from the sale of the land that was recently completed, and as well as the revenues that are left from the maintenance tax notes. Those are adding to our fund balance. So we're reserved, of course, the payment for the maintenance tax notes that's due in August. And we will also reserve $1.2 million for possibly a future school site. The next slide just shows our projected fund balances, and it shows it in a graphic design. Our food service is doing very well and is actually on a spending plan. We do project this overage on fiscal year 21 is a planned overage. They are in a spending plan and they're required to spend down their fund balance. Mr. Macias runs a very efficient program, and so he is required to spend that down. Next year we do anticipate a balanced budget. Debt service, likewise, we will be sending in an additional payment as we have in the past with any excess fund balance that we have in the debt service. And with that, that brings us to our budget allocations by function, which is where you will be approving the budget by function for both, for all three, for the general fund, for food service, child nutrition, and debt service. Upcoming, we will be, of course, adopting the budget today, and we will be adopting the tax rate in September once TA releases those rates for us. And any questions?
All right, board members, do we have any questions? Ms. Rose?
I do. Dr. Gallagher, I guess Ms. Pulley, I'll ask. will each campus have Kids Excel this year?
Yes, we are. It is in the budget.
Totally funded in the budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Field trips, I've always asked for 5,000 per campus over and above what they get, just as the bonus gift.
We do have, I believe, 2,000 allocated per campus and for field trips.
Any way to make it to 5?
I'm sorry?
Any way to up it to 5?
I think we're still in,
Massaging? Okay.
also in COVID.
I understand. Well, field
So
trip could be outside.
We want to go,
Because I have heard so many say they didn't get a field trip, and it's like to go.
Yeah.
So I'd like to, if possible, to see that better. And then to Dr. Reyes, I'll ask you, etiquette program?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
Etiquette program for our
Yes.
children?
Yes, we have been allotted our funds so that we can promote that again.
And
Yes.
so they can eat, not just learn?
That all depends on how COVID,
Oh,
what happens
okay.
with COVID and so forth. But we've got options that we determined this past year. So we have a plan in place for both
Thank
both
you very
scenarios.
much.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Coronado.
All right, thank you, Mr. Earls. Anybody else? Any questions?
I just had a question. One of our community members had talked about the reading academies. In regards to that, what is the difference from online versus, home versus junior school? I believe in professional development is critical. And are the modules different, or?
I don't know if that's a budget question.
What's within the budget? Would that be a budget question?
Y'all are technically still in the public hearing portion of this.
Okay.
So.
We could
public-
close up.
The public should be invited to comment, and then the next item on the agenda will be for questions.
Okay, I'll reserve my questions, sir.
All right, at this time, we ask any members of the public if they'd like to comment on the proposed budget for the next fiscal year.
Well, President, I had Daisy Cisneros sign up earlier also, and
Okay.
Ms. Maldonado.
And Ms. Maldonado was one of your students a long time ago.
Oh, nice.
So nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm not too familiar, I guess you could say, with the numbers, but as you saw the recognitions here, the teachers deserve the best. They did their job, and even more so. So for sure, I think that they did a great and phenomenal job, given the situation and the circumstances that we were on. So now this is a new school year, and I believe this budget is for the new school year. Yes, am I correct? So for sure, I agree with Ms. Earls. She talks about the field trips. I was a PTO at Garcia, and I was very involved, like I said, in past meetings with other different schools. We had an issue with the fact that we couldn't afford paper. The PTO had to raise money for the schools. In the middle school, Canopio Middle School, last year, actually for the past 3 years, same problem. The paper, the things that teachers needed, it came from the parents. The PTO raised that money to get a field trip. We had to raise some money. So, $2,000 doesn't seem like much to me for the field trips. And yes, I do think that they're very important. I understand COVID restrictions, all of this, but I'm sure that we can work a way, to get the kids out there again and experiment and see more. I think they deserve that. These kids that are up here, the recognitions that I'm amazed and thank God for that. That is awesome. But again, it all goes back to the teachers. I don't know how many of you guys have stepped into the schools and actually walked the premises, the campuses, talked to the teachers. Brings me back to the audit with the police department. They did not speak to the teachers. If it was true that the cops constantly would change or the police officers were different, it's not true. I was there. So I know that whoever he talked to was not being honest. And I think the teachers and the students need to speak about that, as well as the budget. I think you need the input of the teachers and the students. Go out to the campuses and speak to them to see if this budget is, correlated, like doing good for them. Is there something that is needed in every campus? So I just wanted to run that by you guys. Again, I'm not big about the numbers. It was not my forte, but I do know what the students need. So just consider that, talking to the teachers, interviewing teachers, not just principals, like you did with the audit. Interview the teachers, interview the students, because I think that's very, very important. Mr. Tristan was there not too long ago. So we know for a fact that this takes big time plays into what the budget is for our schools. Mr. Galaviz, I mean, I've seen you all over for years now. So I hope that you guys really do listen to the teachers and what is needed according to this budget. Okay, thank you.
All right, next.
Can I make a comment?
Mr. Carsby.
I'd just like to
I mean,
say
yeah.
that just a reminder that the budget is a living document, as evidenced by the budget amendments that you receive every month. So this budget still can be changed on a monthly basis. And also the $2,000 is not their entire field trip budget. That's just the amount that is added to their allotment based on board request.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Carsby.
First of all, Mrs. Nettles, it does me proud to see you stand up and speak. Community member, thank you. So, touching on what Mr. Rodriguez was saying about, and what I talked about reading academies, I think that it should be budgeted for the Reading Academy teachers. It is a state mandate program that needs to be done. And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Rodriguez, they actually have a cohort leader that the district contracted, which I believe is Region 19, who is leading these teachers through these reading academies. And so they basically are doing it's like when you go to school, you're given an assignment and you need to complete it by a certain time, type thing. But I do feel honestly that as a parent, as a community member and taxpayer, and as a teacher, that they deserve to be compensated for the hard work, because this is on top of the regular work that they have to do. And that alone has been a challenge this year, doing both remote and face-to-face, But having something put on top of that adds the stress, because you have to complete it in the time, having to take their holidays to complete these. The spring break, right now some of them are working on during the summer to complete this, because there's a deadline. And it's not an easy chapter that you read. I mean, even some of your lead teachers here, your principals are having to do it, and it is hectic. So I believe that is one thing that the district needs to budget for. You need to compensate those dedicated, loyal teachers. There's one teacher that retired precisely because of the reading academies. Precisely. I understand this is not in your control because it is a state mandate. Come on. There is rumors that other districts are compensating. I don't know that, and I won't speak on rumors. I'm just mentioning that, right? But we need to show the teachers that we appreciate what they do. We appreciate what they do. And so you need to somehow compensate them. $80, come on guys, $80 ni para comprar un pedazo de pastel, ¿verdad? Como se dice, right? So I really do hope that you, Ms. Perkowski just said, it's a living document. I hope that you consider some kind of stipend. And I appreciate the $2,000 stipend, I really do, something is something, right? But working 11 months on a module that takes at least 6 hours a day to pay $80, then, something's not right, okay? The other thing that I'll speak on behalf of, as a grandmother, as a community member, as a teacher that sees daily the food that is being served, and I understand, if my understanding is correct, Ms. Pikarski or Ms. Pulley said that Mr. Macias needs to spend down the fund balance. So the way that I interpret it, I'm not an accountant, but the way I see it is like he has money in the reserves. He hasn't spent everything that he has. Is that correct? That's correct. In so many words? Suggestion, Mr. Macias, better food for the students. Yes. Not processed foods. I have 2 grandkids, 3 coming in, and the food that is being served is just not adequate. It's not adequate. It's processed, it's packaged, it's heated up in the microwave, and I mean, I grew up here, I went to school, and I loved eating in the cafeteria because it was homemade food, and I know that there's regulations that you need to abide by, but come on, let's put in a little bit more money for our students on the food that we serve, please. Right now, that's it. I think with ESSER funds, I will also have an opportunity, correct, Ms. Miller, to speak up?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
I have a question in regards to the slide that showed the property taxes. Is there any way to go back to that? And I may be reading this wrong. I'm not a financial person now. You don't want me doing your notes. No, it was more of a line graph like that right there. So you were saying these are proposed property taxes due to TEA next year. Is that correct?
These are values. These are our property values.
Property values. Okay, so the property values are going up due to the communities that are being built and things of that sort around us. Okay, so our property taxes, are they going to be raised this year?
Well, that's the next slide.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
One more. Right there. So basically what happened is that the state legislature had, in the last biennium, agreed to decrease the local share of our taxes. So every year, the M&O taxes are set to decrease.
Okay.
So that's why you see that we went from $1.03 to basically $1.97.
$2.97.
So basically approximately 98 cents. But this $1.03 came down from $1.17. So every year this is set to decrease.
Okay, so our taxes are set to decrease, and then if we pass the bond that will be coming up, that would be the increase in taxes.
Well, your tax rate, which is controlled by the school district, is set to decrease.
Okay.
Now, your valuation may or may not have an impact on what your actual taxes are.
Got it. Okay.
So everyone's taxes situation is different. So I don't know if you want to mention anything about any increase, but the increase would be on the 97 cents or 38 cents.
When I saw that, for some reason, I was thinking we were going to be having a double, if we had the bonds, that we would have a double raise, if that makes sense. So that's what I wanted to clarify.
I think what they're talking about is the Central Appraisal District, they do the valuations for the entire area. And if they raise the value of your property, your taxes go up, but the tax rate may not.
Right, our tax rate is not going up.
Okay, so your taxes may go up even though the tax rate does not.
Okay, that's what I
Because
wanted.
they increase your valuation.
Okay.
Now, if we have a bond issue and we increase the tax rate for the interest and sinking fund, which is to pay off the long-term loans, or the bonds rather, then we'll have to increase it because we're taking out loans basically for that. We'll have to increase the rate on the interest and sinking fund to pay those bonds. But the actual tax rate for the maintenance and operations is not affected by the bond at all.
Okay.
Right, yeah, that's correct. Also, the 98 cents is a decrease of 5 cents. And the bond is only asking for 4, so it would still be a -1.
Right. So your tax rate on the interest and sinking fund would increase, but since we're, by 4 cents is what the projected is, unless the tax valuations go up, then it might be even a little bit less than that. Am I correct, Bill?
Right, and that's why this 97.87 is an estimate, because it depends on how the rest of the state does. It's not something that we can calculate today.
So even if we pass the bond, the overall tax rate, if these projections are true, then it'll probably end up in a net 1% decrease in your entire tax rate.
Decrease, right? Yes. Okay. And that's why I wanted clarification on, because for some reason I was thinking it was going to be increased twofold, so I was, I was worried about that. All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
The other issue in regards to the central appraisal, you had the increase is also including it might be an increase in the property value, but it's also an increase in new developments as well.
Yeah. It's new properties that are coming on the tax roll and what Central Appraisal District has increased the valuations by. We won't really know that until we get it finalized, right?
Correct.
Valuations.
Correct, which all comes too late for the budget.
Right. So,
I can make a comment also. The property, the valuation of the homes nationally is skyrocketing because of the demand for housing and the shortage of inventory of housing that is available. People are paying outrageous prices for their homes. In LA, people are trying to put down $20,000, $30,000 as a down payment on a house. That doesn't even get them in the front door. Some people are paying cash for the home. There's such a shortage of inventory of homes. People can't afford it. And that's where you see the increase in the value of homes by the Central Appraisal District. I was flabbergasted at one property I had for years. Went from 90,000 to 150,000. That's a 100-year-old home. And you can't, I said, well, how can that be? Well, that's what it is around this area. We're lucky. But you go anywhere else, Austin, you won't even know. Thank you.
But for those, thank you, Ms. Brian, and for those members of the community, if you have your property valuation on your home, if you didn't add anything to it, and they're increasing it by more than 10%, you need to contest that because the Central Appraisal District is limited from raising your valuation by more than 10% a year. They used to do that in the past and put a stop to it, okay? And so a lot of the taxing entities have issues with that, and of course the community as well. So, anyways, any of the community out there, if your property taxes went up by, or rather your valuation went up by more than 10%, you can contest that. I don't know if they've extended the deadline. It's usually by May, something 15th, but I don't know if they delayed the date because of COVID this year. I don't know if they have, but you might want to check with Central Appraisal District if you are in that situation. And so for everybody's benefit, you need to review your proposed, tax valuation, your valuation by the Central Appraisal District. They send it to you probably sometime earlier in the year for you to either agree with it or not. And if you don't contest it, then that's what it's going to be. Okay.
So two more things. I'm glad Mr. Bayan mentioned that, there's skyrocketing and all that, because brings me back to the fact that, I don't even know how to say it in English, but doing más, like even more so, please spend the taxpayers' money wisely in what it needs to go, because people are struggling. And you see it here in El Paso, and especially in, I'm gonna say it, democratic cities, that's the truth. Taxes are skyrocketing like crazy. El Paso is one of them, Austin, Houston, San Diego, you name it. San Francisco, it's really bad. So we see it, so just be wise with how you're spending our taxes. You guys work for us. That's the way it works. So be wise with that. Another thing is the bonds. I have seen bonds and grants come in. You mentioned bonds, Mr. Coronado, and I have not seen the fruit of it. That's the truth. I see El Paso ISD. I have family members in El Paso ISD. I see what they're getting throughout the years. The rebuilding of buildings. I don't see much here in Canapillo to, where I can actually say, oh, that's good. I know my taxpayer money is being spent wisely. That's never been my thought, or anybody that I know here in the community. So again, be wise with that. The bonds, I don't think it's a good idea to be more bonds. There's money there. Stop spending it. Stop wasting it on things that you guys do not need. These ladies are doing a great job. I know it's hard work to, work with numbers and all of that. I have family members that are accountants, a lot of stress. So just be wise with that. That's my last comment to you guys. And again, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Okay, the issue is about the neighboring district is we don't have a current bond program. I think they're still working on completing their bond program. That they're still building out, so we're not completing any building right now because we don't have any bond funds that the last one we had was 2011,
Is that correct? So, I think pretty much those funds have already,
Past funds as well. Right? I'm not only talking about right now, I mean, throughout the years in the past.
so, and then the other thing is, you know, people have to compare, you know, apples to apples, and, you know, with respect when you talk about what other districts spend, you know, our facilities are, you know, you have to compare what their facilities are compared to what our facilities are. Sometimes, you know, there's more money that needs to be spent in other districts to bring up the buildings just to make sure that they're, you know, we spent a lot of money in the last month to make sure that we upgraded all the facilities. We got heating, rather refrigerated air in all the campuses because we didn't used to have that. So that's something that, you know, we've got LED lighting the entire district. That's something that other districts don't have. So just as a matter of saying is, you know, you can't really compare those unless you compare the facilities and what they have in them. So
Can we get those records?
those records are all online. You can certainly look at the district's website.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Mr. Rodriguez.
If you just Google 2011 bond program, kind of CISD, has evaporated, refrigerated, air conditioning, repaint, refurbished, service, playgrounds, new interior, fire, rated doors, exterior lighting. I think the bigger projects were, I believe it was raised. I'm looking at raised and some of the others, so it's all there. The new gymnasium at the high school.
Questions on the budget?
Yeah, this is really, we're getting out of line. This is about the budget, not the bond programs. So. All right, any other questions from the community regarding the budget?
I have just one
comment.
For the property owners, through Central Appraisal District, to bring, you know, your taxes down, you can always file for homestead. If you're a veteran, they give you a certain percentage, and if you're over 65. So those are the areas, am I correct, that you can file with Central Appraisal District to bring down your tax?
Yes, that is correct, yeah. Like Ms. Mendoza mentioned, there are certain exemptions that you can take advantage if you qualify. If you're over 65, I think that's the target age. You can have your taxes freeze. You can qualify for exemption. If you're a veteran, you can qualify for exemption if it's your homestead, up to a certain amount. What is it in the district, Mr. Karski, 15,000?
I believe it's 25.
25,000? Yeah. So 25,000 is taken off your, of what you're taxed on. You use the home as your homestead. So.
I forgot my second question. The second question is in regards to, when we pulled up the budget, it said something about we were in the positive, basically, due to a sale of property. What sale of property was that?
There's some land close to Garcia Norman.
Okay, when was that property sold?
Last month?
Within this past month, probably. The contract for it was done many months ago, but it was just actually closed on within the last month or so, I think.
Okay. Is there a reason that we sold that property?
Yes, because it was determined that it was no future use for the district for buildings.
Okay. I was just asking because teachers that I work with at Garcia had asked about that property and what happened to it, because I know that there was a lot of discussion on an ag building and different things that were going to possibly happen at that property. So when you said a property was sold, I was wondering if that was the property that was being discussed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I'd like to make a comment on that too. That's something near and dear to my heart. And so the public, this is a public meeting. We sold that property. We just heard how property values are skyrocketing. People are getting cash for their homes. We sold that property for $300,000 less than we bought it for. That's the first thing, and that was without improvements. So I think that y'all ought to know this. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ross.
And I'm glad you mentioned something like that, because board right now keeps changing the topic. When the parent was talking about the bond issues, you said that has nothing to do with the budget. You switched, and you said, please keep it, Dr. Gillespie, with all due respect. You did lean over to Mr. Corrado and said, hey, let's not talk about it, but then we go back to CAD. Let me ask you this, are you guys authorized to give legal advice when it comes to tax rates or anything having to do with homeowners?
This is not about legal advice. This is
simple yes or no, sir.
Okay. Sir, do you have a question about the actual?
Yes, sir. Can I ask you why the parent was told to, if it was a question about budgets, and was asked to sit down, but then you guys decide to come up with CAD and about veterans being able, and I tell you, because I'm a disabled member, so I do get my discounts, and I appreciate it, but that has has nothing to do with it. Sir, I'm going to ask you, this is public comment. May I comment?
You can comment.
Thank you so much, thank you. Okay. I'm going to ask you in favor.
That's the question.
Do not stop me. I'm going to ask you, can you please stop?
All right, please make your comment.
Sir, I think you find it, you don't like anybody to question your authority.
No, I'm not
Can we or can we not give comments? Yes or no?
Yes,
Thank you.
Comment.
Do you mind if I comment now?
Go ahead.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm just going to point out that Mr. Coronado decides what we can talk about, when we can talk about it. Just like he's doing right now. And just like the looks that he's giving me and Mr. Rodriguez is giving, guess what? I can care less. You want to follow the rules, you do it every single time. You do it with every single person. If we're not talking about things that have nothing to do with the budget, then that includes you guys. Can we agree on that? Can we agree on that, Mr. Coronado? That's a question. You asked me if I had a question, right? Or can we agree on that?
I'm not going to answer your question. This is not about interrogating me. This is about your comment about the budget.
This is about integrity, sir.
It's a comment about the budget, sir. If you like to comment on the budget, go ahead.
Correct, sir. Once again, we stick to talking about the budget and not, because you did mention about taxing entities. Let me ask you this. Is the school district a taxing entity?
Yes, it is.
Gotcha. You said we should question taxing entities. That you're not. You do not. So that's what we're doing now. I'm sorry, sir, you did. You said question CAD.
I'm not going to be here.
No, you do not like to be put in your place. You do not like to be held accountable. You don't like it because you are an attorney. You are used to taking control of courtrooms.
All right, sir.
Guess what?
I'm going to ask you to either make your comment about the budget, or I'm going to ask.
The budget right now needs to be checked because there's people on this board who lack integrity, who lack character, who do not allow the parents and the teachers, you have teachers here, try and tell you that there's issue with budgets. So I'm here to tell you, and in front of everybody, that we're sick and tired of you putting people down and not listening to them. So this is public comment, and my comment is, you're being put on check. All of you guys are. We're sick and tired of it. Okay, you're not gonna silence us.
Okay, that's your comment, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Do any of you have a problem with that, or do you agree?
I agree.
Thank you so much. I rest my case.
I have a question about the property. Who did we sell it to? Who did we sell that property to? Who did we sell it to? We want to know. We're the taxpayers.
This is, council, are we allowed to discuss the
public information?
Yes.
Yes, sir. It's public information. You can look it up.
Okay,
I don't
then tell
remember.
me.
Hold on just a second, man. Please, just be respectful. Okay, I'm trying to get to you.
Go ahead.
Trying to get to you. I don't remember if it was Steve, was it Icon Homes, or did they have a separate company?
JCGAR Investments.
Excuse me?
JCGAR Investments.
JCGAR Investments. That's what it was. It's public
How
information.
much did we sell it for?
It's on this page.
I forget, 1.2 or 1.3 million, something like that.
1.2 million.
Yes.
1.2 million.
Yes.
And what was the value of it? We sold it for 1.2 million. And what was the true value of the acreage?
There was a valuation done by the district. We can't sell property without having a valuation.
So what is the value? What was the value of the property?
Steve, do you remember what the valuation?
Okay, because if we sold it 300 less than what the property is worth, than what the value of the property is? Why did we do that?
Well, we discussed that.
Why did we sell the property $300,000 less than what it's worth?
Because the valuation at the time of the sale is what the valuation of the property was at the time of the sale.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rodriguez.
I just want to add, you also need to ask the valuation of when we purchased it and why we paid so
How much did we purchase it for?
That's what I'm asking. I don't have those details, but I would ask council if we could provide those and give them to the rest of the community, because I think it's important for them to know.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I know, but I think we need I'm okay with letting it out and in the way they need to get it, that we paid more money for that value than what it was purchased at. And the reason being, Ms. Searles wanted to purchase that because she didn't want no development behind her house. And she kicked out the superintendent and people in the boardroom, in executive session, so we could purchase that property.
I don't believe you, and I am going to tell you why. Because this property was for FFA. This property was asked by the parents multiple times for FFA.
It was not
So
for
this
FFA
property, they wanted it for FFA. The parents wanted it for FFA. They wanted to build a barn there. They wanted their animals there. And you turned around and you sold this property. Yes, you did. You just told us within this month you sold this property.
It was not purchased for FFA. It was purchased for current technology and other stuff. It was not purchased for FFA.
It was purchased. Why our monies?
On that issue months ago.
That is why parents don't believe in this board. That is the reason.
Okay. I'm just telling you, that was done, and that decision was done many months ago, but the closing on it was only done in the last month. Okay. All right. Sir, I think you have a separate comment?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Payán, you mind if I talk to Mr. Payán?
Okay, I don't think this is for you to question the board. This is for you to make a comment about the budget.
If you vote to sell and lose, that is lose, $300,000 of property, when they should be getting more than asking prices. Can you answer me that?
That question, believe me, I argued about. But you're talking home values.
Right.
Not raw land.
No.
Okay?
Land.
There's a difference there.
Sir, are you a real estate agent?
No, but we have a.
I am.
We have.
Are you licensed by the state of Texas? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. All right, he doesn't want to respond to your
Gotcha.
question.
I thank you so much, sir. Now, Mr. Rodriguez, let me ask you, sir.
I know.
So, for parents, if you take a look, sir, legal advice here is just telling because they're getting deep. We're getting deep into some of the questions they don't want answered.
Stop, sir. I'm gonna stop at this time.
It's not what's gonna happen. It's not what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna call the police and have you escorted out.
Abraham, come here, Abraham.
Okay. Sir?
Young Abraham.
Sir.
You take me out? Okay, go.
Sir.
Sir,
If you.
I am letting you know right now.
The budget.
You are not allowed people to put you in your place. We asked a question about values. Mr. Payán just stood here and talked about values going super high, but then you come say, oh, they dropped. Mr. Rodriguez, I find it amazing that every time, sir, they say something, you attack them personally. Sir, that is the third time that you attacked personally. We know you have ties with certain companies, with your current employer. We know. Thank you, sir.
Would you please call the police?
Abraham.
Law enforcement, please.
Abraham. That's a police officer in your chair right now. Anyway.
Okay.
Sir, Mr. Rodriguez.
Sir.
You recused yourself from votes, right?
No, I'm.
But you're an insider. You have insider information to all this stuff.
About the budget, sir.
What is your title at your employer? Business development, right? That is develop business, correct? Does that include getting contracts? Does that include it? Can you tell me simple yes or no?
It's obvious you're unprofessional and I don't think you're.
I know, I'm a jerk, I'm a butthole, whatever, but the question still stands. Is your job, sir, at your employer,
Sir, please.
to develop business, to get contracts? Is it not, sir? Do you not have access to board members to find out what RFPs and RFQs are? Simple yes or no answer.
Sir.
Let me refer To a text message you sent me, you said, Mr. Carrejo, call me. I am an open book, completely transparent. Go ahead, sir. Be transparent.
I don't deal with unprofessional.
I don't deal with unprofessional. That is a way for people who don't want to answer respond. Thank you so much. Your actions speak louder than words.
Yes.
Is this one open? Okay. What do you have to say?
Board members, I'm sorry. Sir, I'm a community member, raised, born here. I have taught here for 27 years. My children have grown, have graduated from the school, my husband, myself. My father was involved with the district. I have come before this board more than you have. There is a difference. You want to get the message across, do not be disrespectful.
Right.
And that goes to you too, Ms. Prince. You want to get the message across, have your facts in mind, speak about facts, so that they can hear. All you're doing right now is creating chaos, and I'm shutting you down.
Gotcha. Thank you, ma'am.
That's my suggestion to you, sir.
Okay, and I'll take that comment. Thank you so much.
I do have something to ask board members about the property.
Yes, Ms.
What you all should be asking is, where does this money go? Where is this money allocated when you sell the property? That's my question.
The money from the sale has been reserved for a future school site.
Okay. Because I know at certain times you couldn't take money from certain places to do other things, because there's requirements. So the sale of this money has been reserved.
He's a customs agent,
Has
and
been
he's trying
reserved.
to use, this is what he's doing. He's lying to us.
Sir,
He's lying right here.
Sir, you're disrupting a public meeting. I'm gonna ask you to stop yelling.
And sir, did I
No, I
disrespect
didn't.
you by
No,
interrupting you?
and I
Well, you are
apologize.
interrupting me
I'm
right
sorry, but I'm
now.
also identifying
So
lies
can you
right
take it
here.
outside,
I am
please?
identifying everybody, the lies right here. And as a federal agent, you take yourself in.
So again, the money goes to a reserve for the future building of a facility.
Come here, sir.
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
your badge.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
All right, thank you, Ms. Maldonado.
Mr. President, Board of Trustees, I don't know what to say. I'm becoming a taxpayer of this district, and I'm very, very disappointed that the gentleman that was before me disrespected not you, but disrespected the entire community.
Exactly, thank you very much.
Disrespected this whole group, and I'm very, very disappointed that the police department was not present to get him out immediately. And I hope to have a discussion with him, because he doesn't have the slightest idea what the cost of value is. Just to give you an idea, my brother graduated in 1984, is selling 20 acres of land in Cobb, Texas. He signed a contract 2 months ago for $6 a square foot of his property. And now he keeps himself on the floor because 3 months later, he could have gotten $750. Hey, that's just the way it is. The property value, it is worth what it is right now, and tomorrow might be worth twice as much. But I do applaud for you selling the property, because you were landlocked. In reality, you did not have any value, because I was the owner of the property adjacent to the property before, right after, I think we bought it right after you guys built the school. Thank you.
Okay, anybody have any other comments on the budget from the community? All right.
Item 4B, consider approval of adoption of 2021-22 annual budget.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve our 2021 budget, and do I need to go through all the 21-22?
By fund and function, is that correct?
What if I fund, as presented by function?
All right. Okay, do I hear a second on the motion? I'll second the motion. All right, we have a motion and a second on this agenda item to approve the budget as presented by administration. Any further questions from the board at this time? This time the board can have questions about it. Ms. Searle, sorry.
Mr. Coronado, I think that what we've heard tonight is really important for Ms. Maldonado. $80 is nothing. It's hard enough to go get your hair done. You do? I'd like to, Dr. Galavis says he's got some, if we could increase that stipend for our teachers.
Certainly, the administration can take a look at that. The amounts are not yet finalized in stone. We're waiting still on property valuations, right? That would be finalized?
Yes, the property value is not finalized, the tax rate is not finalized. This is our best guess and our estimate.
So could maybe at the August board meeting, would that be?
Yeah, Ms. Earls, as always throughout the year, if we've had realized some savings in items of the budget for the year, we've always done budget amendments, and we can certainly take a look at that and reallocate some of those funds. Is that correct, for Carson?
Yes, but as I understand it, this is more of a compensation question.
Yes, it is, a one-time stipend compensation, not continuing. And I think that if we put that off, it becomes yesterday's news, that it needs to happen. That these teachers are doing their best, and it's a mandate. We don't have a choice, they don't have a choice. But we do have the ability, we have the funds at this point.
Well, the question
to give
is,
a little more.
Is compensation. Compensation would actually be through HR.
We'll look heavily first thing in the morning.
Will you bring something back to us, Dr. Delson?
I'll put it in Thursday night.
The other issue is, with not knowing what the bond is going to be and whether we have a referendum to set aside the money that we spend on the laptops and the connectivity, if it passes, because that's going to be a separate referendum, a separate vote, to be able to do, to retire those funds and move them from the MNO side to the INS side. If that doesn't happen, then we may not have the money. Is that correct? We're going to have another payment then the following year before. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So in this budget, so if we can go to slide 12, sir. Slide 12 talks about the general fund balance. And so if you look under non-spendable is basically inventory. The restricted column is mostly food service.
Right.
And then the committed would be any money that the board had set aside. And then assigned is administration. And so administration has set aside money for the August payment.
Right.
Because it's due in every August. And so we have.
For this August payment?
Yes.
But not the following year?
The following year, we're hoping that we will get some of that reimbursement in order to fund that next year.
Right.
So we have a plan for at least 2 years worth of maintenance tax notes.
Maintenance tax notes, and you're talking about the refund from the federal or state government for the connectivity?
Connectivity, yes.
Okay. All right. But that's not for sure yet.
It's not, we never say that it's for sure until
because
the money arrives.
I saw the report from our auditor on the request we made, and they have really nitpicky details that say, well, we don't qualify, or we're only going to charge you it at 50% or 75%. They can always change those amounts, right?
They could, but they have pretty much committed to about $1.3 million.
Okay.
And in fact, we got a letter on today that said that it should be coming in the next week.
Okay. And our commitment on the maintenance tax notes is 1.1 or 1.2?
1.15.
1.15? Okay. All right.
So I just wanted to also comment that the next column is the unassigned, and we're projecting our unassigned fund balance for the end of the year to be $17,735,000.
Right.
The down below 3 months is what our goal is, but that 18 million number is inflated because of the maintenance tax notes.
Right.
We spent almost an extra $10 million, and so our actual optimum fund balance is closer to 16 million.
Okay.
And so, like you said, comparing with other districts may be willing to dip into that unassigned amount, especially for something that may be a recurring cost.
Right.
Whereas our district is not doing that.
Right.
So we have set a goal of the 3 months, the 90 days, and we are sticking to that, and that's what helped us with the bond rating agency.
Exactly. That does help, and that not only that we have a policy for that, that we actually meet that goal.
Yes, and that's what happened. Originally, they said that we're glad that you balanced the budget, but now we need to see that you actually finished that way.
Right.
So on this slide 12, it shows that we're gonna finish the year with a slight positive of $294,000.
Okay.
Which is pretty close.
All right, and so if we get reimbursement, that will provide probably payment for the next year, the next August payment in the next fiscal year.
Correct. We didn't want to budget too close because we don't know when that. They keep saying next week.
Right.
Some districts have received it, so there is hope.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so I guess Dr. Galvez with Martha will take a look at that, Ms. Soros, to see if there's anything.
I sure hope so. I think
Right.
it's appropriate.
Okay. I do, it's, you know, if it's other time that they're spending on that, I agree, it's, you know, it's gonna, if we can do something, we can. It just depends on our budget, so.
And it's just a one-time, you know, it's not like they get it every year, right? This is just a one-time.
Yes.
Thank you.
I agree, our teachers go above and beyond, they spend money out of their pocket to do, you know, things for their students, so I get it, it's an unending deal for the teachers that they have to spend money out of their pocket. We get it, and that's why we, you know, we pay our teachers well. We're probably one of the top 2-3 districts in the region to pay teachers, and so the comments have been made about, you know, other districts giving them a higher raise, but we still pay them. So we're higher at the top as a small district to pay our teachers. And we're proud of that. We started doing that about 10 years ago. Both Mr. Rodriguez and I felt that, you know, teachers needed to be compensated. We wanted to get on a plan. And that's why we hired CISD to be able to come in and give us some input onto how we should structure our payments, not just for teachers, but we also budgeted for stipends for our teachers in master's degrees that are in their subject that they teach, that we give them stipends for math, for science. For those that do dual credit, we have stipends for that. So, and we're pretty high up at the top in this region for the stipends. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Karski. Right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Rodriguez.
Just real quick, going back to the question I had, I just want to get a little bit educated on that. One of the things, is the state requiring it, or is it, so the state's giving that 80, and what's, I guess if you could give me just a,
Sure.
Good evening. Yes, House Bill 3 requires the reading academies of the teachers. Where the $80 comes from is that some teachers were not able to complete reading academies during the year. So during the summer, we've opted to pay, additional $80 per day for those teachers that want to finish up the reading academies. Where the question is coming in also is the fact that they're having to come in face to face in person to do that. So that was the other question that I guess Ms. Maldonado brought up. But the difference between that $80 and the $1,000 that you saw in the IFL is that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation allocates that $1,000 specifically for that Math Institute because it's optional for teachers. House Bill 3 is a requirement. Many teachers did already finish, but for those that did not, we did allocate the $80 for those teachers that wanted to finish up. And the fact that $80 is not a whole lot of money, but we wanted to compensate them for their time. And that's what the current rate is for professional development.
And I guess I won't go into the details, but I know professional development is employment critical. And going back to, not only do we focus on making sure we were top paid on, we're in the top 3, not always one, because it's always, pick and choose, but how do we pay from year 1 to year 30, as well as how do we create that professional development for teachers with nationally board certified teachers, dual credit. And so I think if this is a way for professional development, how can we look at this? I think there's other opportunities. I think some of you all are going to Harvard, which is an awesome opportunity for professional development. That's something that any of those stuff that I see, I'll forward it because I think it's important for us to continue to grow the capacity of anybody within administration all the way to our teachers. So I think finding a medium is something hopefully we'll could come up with. Just going back to those comments, I think, that was Daisy, which I went to school with, just in regards to one of the main things that we do look at is our health insurance benefits as well as what we pay our teachers and doing that, because if you look at some of the other districts, some of them are able to get out of TRS, but we're always focused on making sure we're providing a good model for our teachers to be able to get paid and be able to year, because I think once you get quality teachers and you support them, then we're going to continue to see the success that Dr. Galleries and the staff has done, and we appreciate that. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Any other comments from the board? Mr. Payan?
Yes, sir. At the risk of bringing up refer to him as a person, but the issue of the land sale, I think, as it was presented, is patently unfair to this board. To bring it up the way it was brought up is not fair to how long it took this board to do this. It's not fair, it's not right. And I'm objecting to your presentation of this issue, Mr. The way it was presented. We deliberated that issue for months. And believe me, we have expert advice telling us what we should have done, how we should have done it. We pay people, professional people, to advise us, and we follow that advice. We didn't do it on our own. Sal Payan did not decide to do this. Armando Rodriguez did not decide to do this on his own. Tristan Hernandez did not have that decision made. Sergio or Patsy Mendoza, Sergio Coronado did not decide that issue on their own. It was unfair to be presented the way it was. There's a long history of this property there. A long one, believe me. Way before the proposed barn. Somehow or another, one day, somebody's going to have to present the whole story about this issue. But I am objecting. It is not right the way it was brought up tonight. It's putting us in a bad light. And that's not the way it was. Somebody needs to correct that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payan. All right, any other comments from the board on the motion before? Board?
Call for the questions.
All right. Ms. Mendoza has called for the question then. I'll poll the board. If the board votes yes, it's so that we can vote on the motion. Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez? Yes. And Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza?
Yes.
Ms. Earls?
Yes.
All right. The question has been called. Sonia, please poll the board with respect to the motion.
Yes, sir. Mr. Coronado?
Yes?
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza? Yes. Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Mrs. Earls?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next agenda item, Sonia.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'll apologize, Sonia. Thank you for our presenters, again, staff. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for balance.
This time of the year is tough to be doing this. You guys are, I know, spend a lot of time doing this. Thank you. All right. Now, Sonia.
Yes, sir. Item number 5, public hearing regarding Cantil ISD academic acceleration plan for school year 21-22 with ESSER 3 funding. Mrs. Rocha.
Thank you, President.
Welcome. Good evening.
Thank you, President Coronado, members of the board, Superintendent Galleries. It's my pleasure and my honor to bring you the acceleration plan associated with ESSER 3 funding to the board and to the public for public comment today. Before I begin, I'd like to introduce also Mr. Rick Porras, our external coordinator, external funding coordinator with the finance department. Rick, if you want to say hello. He's responsible to make sure that we are in compliance. This application will go to TEA And I want everyone to know that we will follow every rule that we need to follow. I'm a Candidatio employee, and I believe in the core values of transparency, of accountability, of high expectations, being student-centered, and student-oriented. I want everybody to know, as of today, not 1 cent of the $12.9 million has been spent, because we wanted to bring it to the board. We also wanted to bring it for public comment. As I go through the presentation, we will be able to account for every dime of the approximately $13 million that we have for ESSER 3. I want to also let the board know that there were 3 ESSER bills that were passed. The first one was ESSER 1 funding, and that was mainly supplanted by the state. It was supplanted by the state, meaning they received the money from the federal government. The state took it and then replaced it, kind of robbing Peter from Paul in order, and gave us a small amount of money. For ESSER 2, it was to mitigate COVID. And so ESSER 2 was being handled by Ms. Pikarski and the finance department and operations to make sure we have safe facilities. ESSER 3 is for addressing learning loss. I want to make sure that we all understand that. It is to address student learning loss. That's why me, in charge of academics, is sitting here. It's different than any other type of funding that we've received. So I wanted to make that clear. So now I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. And as I go through it, please feel free to stop me, but we'll take public comments. So I'd like to go to the next slide of where we are now. Then I will go to where we're going and how we will get there, the implementation plan. First of all, let's remind ourselves that Candidatio is a premier district. We have had 2 A's in a row, and a little later tonight, you're going to hear from the colleagues, my colleagues in CNI, the Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, to show that even during this pandemic, Candidatio did what it needed to do with students. And they're going to show you that, how we compare to the region in our schools. Next slide. Our community knows, everybody knows that we had so many things working against us, but everybody stepped forward. And I remember all the things that Dr. G said. If you wear a Candidatio badge, we can put you anywhere we need you to be, because we're all going to join in. And that's what you see in these pictures, everybody joining in. Next slide. We know that looking ahead, there are going to be 3 major areas that we're going to need to address. One is, we know there's going to be unfinished business of learning. Although we did well, we know we still have things that happened in March when we, on a dime, switched to remote learning. We know there's going to be some unfinished learning loss. We also know that there's going to be increased trauma from our students, and we need to affect that with a mental health program. And I'm grateful to have Dr. Reyes on my right hand to help us with that, and Dr. Kearney on my left. We also know that the pandemic isn't over. There's still an ongoing public health crisis. We don't know if we're going to need booster shots. We don't know what the variants are going to bring, and we need to prepare for that, and that's what this ESSER money is going to help us do. Next slide. To address this unfinished learning loss, we partnered with a TA partner called the Resilient Schools Program. It'll tell you all the districts in the state that participated in this program. I'm going to say that it was due to that relationship that we did as well as we did with our students, but we know there's still more to do. Next slide. We also know that there are many voices that we needed to hear, and so what we did is we created a district task force. The district task force consisted of every single school principal, the executive director of technology, the executive director of CNI. For a while we had Dr. Reyes on, but then the pandemic took control and she had to leave us on that. And we also had members of the CNI department. In addition to having that district task force, we also had campus task force that were involved in creating plans for their individual campuses. We surveyed and sent out an acceleration survey, and 1,000 people, 315 students, 358 faculty members and staff members, and almost 320 families also responded to that survey. Next slide. We went through this timeline. We looked at data. What was our data showing? Where were the kids? How were they doing? It was very hard to do, but we did it. All the people that are behind me in this organization. We also used that data that we got from the community. What was our community telling us? Where did kids say they needed help? Where did parents think their kids needed help? We also came up with, from TEA, gave us a list of high-level strategies to use to address learning loss. And now we're really on number 6. We're going to share what we've decided and why. And we're opening that for public comment as well. So now we're going to go with where are we going for the 21-22. We realize there are 3 big rocks that Canutillo organization needs to address. And I'm talking about learning loss. We know we need to continue with the science of teaching reading. And Ms. Maldonado, my hat's off to all the teachers that completed those reading academies. We didn't realize how rigorous it was. TEA wasn't completely prepared. They changed things left and right, but we managed to go through. We know there's unfinished business in reading. We know that there's unfinished business in math. And through the math innovation zones, which later we'll talk about, we're going to go have a blended approach to math. And we also know we need to support our high school students that now need to recover credits. We had only 16 students who did not graduate of our cohort. Everybody else graduated. I'm telling you, that's a huge lift in a pandemic. 3 of those kids have passed now, are going to graduate in summer graduation, and we hope for more. We still have another week to go. We focused our efforts on group seniors to get them through. Now we need to turn our efforts to the 9th and 10th graders that maybe didn't get the credits that they needed to get. What is our rationale for why we chose these? One is we know, like Ms. Maldonado said, we need strong foundations in literacy. We know that needs to happen. We also found that although we led the path in Region 19 with our scores, which we're going to share later, we still fell approximately 10 points in reading, right? So we know there's that gap. In mathematics, but nationwide, kids did not do well in mathematics. Why? Because they didn't have the manipulatives in front of them. And so we know we have to have an approach to address mathematics. In addition, I know I'm saying in addition, sorry, my transition word, plus, I'll say that, plus, we know that kids who aren't on cohort, that miss going from 9th to 10th grade, have a struggle in graduating on time, right? Those repeat 9th graders. So we've got to catch them up. And that was the concern that kids said. When kids' surveys said, they said, you know what? We're concerned that we're not going to catch up. What do we need to do? That was their biggest concern. So these are now our learning acceleration strategies. Notice on the right-hand side, every school will have an academic tutoring program. Every school will have that. In addition, we're going to talk about small group instruction. We're going to introduce a high-quality phonics program because we know phonics matters. We're also going to work with Dr. Vera on the math innovation zones that we have with the Bill and Melinda Gates, and we're going to continue with that small group. And in high school, we're going to start offering 9th period. We have the TOA, and we're offering Reading Plus and additional support for TSI preparation. What are our ESSER investments? I told you I'm going to go through a few right now, and then I'll go through all of them. When Ms. Pulley showed you the amount of enrollment and then the prediction, you notice it went up about 200 kids. Where did those 200 kids go during the pandemic? 150 of them were pre-Kers. Parents chose not to send their kids to pre-K. So what does that mean? Those kids are going to be going to kindergarten, not having ever been to school. We believe, and we spoke to the principals, to the teachers, to Ms. Carrillo, our early childhood, we are going to fund a pre-K aid and a kindergarten aid for every classroom. But that doesn't come at a small price. That in itself, just doing that, but we know we need to do this. We know we're looking at a cost of approximately $1.4 million to do that. $1.4 million just to get those aids in every classroom. In addition, we are going to offer every school from K to 8 an additional reading teacher in addition to an additional math teacher to help with that acceleration. We're not remediating, we're accelerating, we're going forward, and we're going to catch the kids up. We're hiring academic tutors in addition to what schools already fund. We're going to do 21 more additional academic tutors, again at a cost of $600,000 for two years. This also goes for 2 years. We're going to offer academic tutors at the high school. We're going to offer stipends for teachers who choose to teach 9th grade. We're going to add some reading intervention support through Avid and through our parent, having additional parent liaison. In addition to that, I don't want you to say, oh, I only see math, I only see reading. Does this mean we're forgetting about science or social studies? No, we continue to give those programmatic support. The Reading Academy is being one. We're doing refreshers on PD and reading and the writing. In math, we're continuing. I can't wait for you to hear about LSG and the next, about how we did with the algebra. You're just going to fall out of your chairs. In addition to the high school recovery that we've been doing with TOA and the Learning Center. So great things that we're going to continue on. So, next one. What are some other things we're going to invest in? What did kids say was the second hardest class that they didn't do well in? They wanted more support, science. So we're going to offer science lab aides at all the K-8 schools, and they're going to help because 40% of the TEKS, 40% of the TEKS that kids have to know come from lab assignments, from doing labs in classrooms. We're going to provide instructional coaches at 3 schools that didn't have instructional coaches. We're going to hire 3 additional social workers because, as my colleague tells me, we can expect kids to come back with trauma. We're going to also provide a social emotional curriculum. We're going to be doing professional development. In addition, it's not free to invite Nearpod, Zoom. We're going to continue with Zoom. We're going to continue with Seesaw. Now, this board looked ahead. And you were able to pass that we were able to send an Apple device to over 6,000 students. And congratulations to my colleague, Dr. Rico, for getting that done, right? But we still have the same level of support, and we need more support. And so we are going to make sure by hiring computer technicians so that there's a computer technician at every school to help teachers. We're looking at providing a network engineer. Remember, what do we know? We're working on Canutillo Connect, that every person in Canutillo has free internet service. We need that support. Our kids need that support. We are looking for a data analyst. Why? Why data? Because you know what? We may have a lot of information, but we're data poor if we can't pull those reports. If we can't say this student needs some acceleration here. And also, we need instructional technology coordinators to help teachers know how to improve their teaching using these devices. We do not want, once the pandemic ends, the teacher to say, close your laptop and put it away. We're not there. We need to integrate this into our regular learning when kids come in person. So now, how will we get there? We're going to talk about how we're going to get there. We are going to continue to solicit feedback on this plan from our stakeholders, hence the public meeting. We're going to begin staffing the positions. We haven't started staffing the positions because we wanted to have public comment. But we will say, what did parents and teachers say overwhelmingly we needed to have to spend ESSER monies? Having smaller classrooms, more adults, more aides in the classroom to help these students. In July, the final ESSER plan will be submitted to TEA, and Rick will be doing the heavy lifting on that, and then we'll continue to launch our implementation plan. In addition to this implementation plan for the district, every campus has their own implementation plan, because what AMS needs may be different from what CES needs, right? What CMS needs may be different from what RAIS needs. In August, we'll learn to embed our learning acceleration plan into schools and systems, and we're going to train faculty and staff on new curriculums and initiatives. If you'll continue, this is the part of the district leadership team, but I want you to know about other voices. I interviewed every director here. I don't think there's a person here that did not say, or chief, that I did not interview them. I interviewed every one of the principals. Every one of the principals. How do we hear teachers' voices? Through not only the acceleration plan, the survey, but also through campus needs assessment. And Ms. Moreno, she's here to attest to that as well. Thank you. And so when we're talking about this, the monies, I'm going to do that right now for academics, and I'm talking about. Could you go to the next? There's not any more in the slide. There's an attachment, another attachment. If you could go to that attachment, if it's there. For academics, that it was in your packet or it was in your agenda, you're looking at $6 million in academics to pay for the additional teachers, the additional aides. For social emotional learning, which is the things that are happening with Dr. Reyes, we're looking at $500,000 over 2 years. For our special populations, our ELs, we're looking at $500,000 over 2 years. For our programs that we're buying, the phonics, the Nearpod, the Apricot, the Fortelix, the Tableau, the Zoom, we're looking at approximately $900,000. For professional development, we're looking at $200,000 over. For the technology that we're providing for our schools, we're looking at a cost of probably $1.2 million. And of course, the $2 million that went to give teachers the stipends. So that came out of here too. At this point, we're close to, with the indirect cost of $1.2 million, we're at $12.4 million, rough estimate, 12.4. We received 12.9. So there's still a little bit there that we have to, again, see what we need to hear the voices. But at this point, again, not any penny has been spent except the $2 million that is going for the stipends. Am I correct, Ms. McCarthy?
Yes, that's 12.5.
That's 12.5 million that is coming out of this ESSER 3 fund. So at this point, I'm open for public comment and also for questions from the board.
Sorry.
Mr. Rodriguez.
I do have one comment. I think in regards to how we're getting the SSR funding, and we're looking at more federal funding within this next federal budget and some others. So especially for IDEA, which would be beneficial for SPED, but as well as how do we become more innovative within programs. And one specific is the bilingual education program. I think for far too long and a little bit of the history is we were the leaders in the industry when Pauline Dow, Dr. Dow was here, and we supported that program like nothing else. When Dr.
What was that? What program is that? Okay.
Bilingual education, IB, whatever we want to look at, how we create, and I think we have somebody that's capable. Currently is how do we support that. Going back to the history when Murphy came in, that was one of the programs that he cut dramatically, and after we hired Dr. Galavis, I don't know if you all recall, but we created a committee trying to grow dual language and making sure it was one of the leaders in the industry again, and then the board pushed back against it. So for me, I'm probably going to put an item on the next agenda is how do we look at where we could grow and support that department. We have a capable individual there, but how do we really lead in that area, especially being a border community. So I think it's critically important. We've heard it from the community, and I strongly believe in it. We know the research is there in regards to dual language, you know, the ability to work with both brains, and how do we add a third language? How do we create a real unique model, and whether it's, you know, aligned within the campuses, whatever that may be, you all are the educators and the professionals, that I think it's time we create that group that's going to be supportive, and then at the same time we come back and give us updates.
I think we can do that with Ms. Silva. I do want to say, you know how in golf, the higher the score, the worse you're doing, and the lower the score. When Ms. Silva came on board, we were at 3 under PBMAS. That means we were in critical areas. We are now at a 0, same as our core curriculum at a 0, because we've been improving those efforts and keeping. They now call it, it's called RDA. Do you remember what it, results-driven accountability? Thank you so much. But we'll be happy to share. And yes, I agree. Whatever we can do to support it, even make it better. Because what do we know? We have a very strong elementary dual language. Now we need to transition that into middle school. And I know prior to the pandemic, AMS was looking to bring dual language at AMS.
I'll let y'all get creative on the committee, but I would like to see it developed through Dr. Delavise and staff.
Absolutely.
And that way they can report to us quarterly on how we're working on that.
When my colleagues talk about Lone Star governance, that could be something that we could also include in that.
Ms. Searles.
What's apricot?
Oh, sorry. Are you
Apricot, do you want to talk real quick about it?
Are you done, Ms. Searles?
No, well, in regards to, the other thing is looking at the federal funding spec, and then what other areas that we could really integrate some of these programs that are best practices. So we're here to support our staff, our teachers.
Apricot is right now, under Dr. Reyes' tutelage, we've been having a very expanded social work program with UTEP, and our hope is to bring in more social works, and she'll talk about it.
So, good evening. Apricot Solutions is a student management system that addresses our Tier 2 and Tier 3 students on the behavioral health, mental health, social, and emotional health. And so it's a seamless way of us having our data users, which are our counselors, our social workers, our at-risk case manager, our behavioral specialists, and so forth users, to be able to have seamless transition for students, to be able to house the data on any kind of action plan that we've created for a Tier 2 or a Tier 3 student. So it's going to be our data warehouse on the social emotional side, like we have Eduphoria on the academic side.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the board?
Any questions? Anybody else?
Board President,
Yes.
we did have Ms. Bourne sign up for public comment earlier.
All right.
So this year I was a first grade teacher, and I taught first grade for a few years prior, moving up until third grade next year. But when I saw that the aides were going to be placed in the pre-K and kinder classrooms, I had a concern with them. So I understood your validation in regards to them going into the kinder classrooms due to a lot of them dropping out. We saw a huge dropout level of pre-K, so that made sense. But I can tell you our kiddos who are going up into second and third have huge gaps due to COVID. And so my question is, these funds are supposed to be used for COVID gaps, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't honestly think that an academic tutor is going to be enough for those students. I can tell you from our campus alone, instead of students moving up from first grade to second grade at 60 words per minute where they're supposed to be, they're at 20 or 30. They're very low. And due to us not being able to retain anybody this year, we have students who are not reading at all going up into second grade. And so I'm just concerned in regards for those kiddos. I really feel like an academic tutor should be placed in the first and second grade classrooms and not the pre-K and kinder, frankly, because pre-K and kinder are not required grades in the state of Texas. So them coming in not knowing anything in kinder is not abnormal. Does that make sense? In regards to them not having that foundation. We do have some at times, because if they've attended pre-K, then they have some foundation in kinder. But they're used to receiving the students who don't know anything. Not that the kinder or pre-K teachers don't need aids, because God bless them. I don't know how they do it.
So I'd like to respond to that. We talk to every principal, so we talk to your principal, and we tell them, and we ask them what were the things they needed. And the big concern was kindergarten. Now, it is up to the school to determine where they're going to put those academic tutors. We're not making that decision. That'll be up to them. In addition, remember that the school is also getting 2 additional teachers, one in math and one in reading, and that's again for the principal to work with the staff to figure out where they go.
So more of an RTI teacher to rotate months?
Well, it's how they choose to use that. We're going to leave the principals, they're in charge of their schools, to make decisions that are best for their schools, as opposed to saying, no, it's central office.
But we're also going to have the research. And I, K through 3, K through 3 is the foundation.
Yes.
We're going to make sure we get the foundation.
Okay. Because I'm concerned for those kiddos who left our classrooms. I mean, I just came in January. We did everything that we could to get them ready, but at 20 to 30 words per minute going into second grade, that's a scary place to be. And so I'm concerned about that foundation. I know a lot of other educators are as well. So that was my first question. My second question was in regards to Zoom. You said that we were going to be continuing Zoom next year?
Yes, we are.
Is there a reason for that if we're going back to complete face-to-face learning?
We talked to principals, and principals at this time like the idea of being able to have meetings with teachers that didn't always have to be face-to-face. And so the idea of we don't know what's going to happen if there's any variance, and so we want to be prepared that we're ready for Zoom in case any eventuality happens. At this point, we didn't have Zoom when we first started. We were using the free account when the pandemic first started, and then we had issues with security, and so that was one of the recommendations that principals had.
Okay. Do you mind me asking, do you know the number offhand of what we're spending on the Zoom?
On the Zoom, it is approximately $15,000 a year.
And then I have my same question in regards to Seesaw. So Seesaw is the platform that I was using there in the first grade classroom. But if we're going to switch over to Nearpod, what's the purpose of spending the additional money on Seesaw?
Do you want to answer that, or Sandra, can you answer the Seesaw, the Nearpod question? One of the things I will say is when we go back to in-person, we know we're going to need small group intervention. And so we want to make sure that kids get differentiated work as they're working with a small group, that kids can be on their Apple devices and get a lesson specifically for Miss Patsy, specifically for Mr. Armando.
And Seesaw is great for that.
So I'll let Miss, oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, go ahead. And so we used Seesaw predominantly for pre-K through third grade because it is very age appropriate. And so that was what we wanted to continue using that. And the features that Seesaw provides, and I know that you know because of first grade, really were very user friendly for those little ones. And we wanted to continue with using that. And I know that Ms. Zimmerman, when we started, Nearpod kind of came in towards the end, and so there were other features that the upper grades are using for Nearpod. And so
I'm very familiar with Nearpod because that's been used in Socorro, so I'm very familiar with both platforms. I do think that the Seesaw platform is great for the younger kiddos. I don't think that the rigor is there as much when we use the online platform compared to other curriculum-based programs. So I think that we should consider that if we're trying to close gaps, the rigor needs to be there. But is there a way for us to save money in regards to Seesaw would be for the lower grades and Nearpod would be for the upper, so that it's not for everybody and we're spending across the board?
And that's what we have been looking at, and so that's why, particularly with Seesaw, focusing on those younger grades, using it for pre-K through third, is going to be where we're going to stay within that range, because it's true, you're having teachers use two platforms and it's not conducive to,
I'll just tell you, as a teacher, it ends up not happening. You stick to one.
You stick to one, yes.
Your planning time is
exactly
little to none.
And so I know that in speaking with teachers, they have really invested a lot of time and a lot of effort into creating lessons. And what's really great about Seesaw is that you have access to all of that. So you have built a library of lessons that you've created, and we are also continuing. We had pre-purchased PD that we're carrying over into the following school year, and they are continuing to enhance that PD and really close those gaps and really bring families more into that communication. And so that was one of the things that we really advocated to continue using Seesaw for.
Perfect. Okay.
Can I just add one more thing? So teachers requested Seesaw, and then teachers requested Nearpod later. And so then we did program evaluation, and then teachers asked that we continue having, yes, teachers asked that we continue having both of those programs. So we listened to teacher voices when we decided to go ahead and continue, because some use one program, some use the other, some use both. And so we had also said for K through 3, you had the choice between the Google Classroom Suite and Seesaw, or using both.
Okay, perfect. My last question is in regard, actually I have two more. The science labs and aides that will be hired there. So are our science labs going to be renovated? Like brought back together? Because I know that everything was moved around during COVID and they're a hot mess right now. So.
We've also, in addition to those library aids, we put in an amount to go to buy materials for those aids. We put a budget in for those aids to be there, to also purchase things that we need for those science labs.
And then my last question has more to do on the hiring aspect. I know you said that we are going to start hiring for a lot of these things. So I know subs and just hiring in general has been really hard this year. Do we have anything in mind of what we're going to do if we're having a hard time filling these positions with?
Our goal is to have everybody in place by Labor Day. That's the farthest that we want to have. Now, yes, it is going to be difficult. Everybody had ESSER monies and everybody's competing. However, it is our hope that our relationships with El Paso Community College, with Dr. Mean at the College of Education, that they will help us get those. But again, it is a workforce thing, and I can't control that with the contract, but we will do our best.
So we are going to try to get people with educational background or...
Absolutely, they have to be certified teachers if they're going to be a teacher in our classroom.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments from the community about this agenda item?
Yes, sir, Mrs. Maldonado? Hello again, Mrs. Rocha. For the academic tutors, you said 21 more. District-wide?
Okay, so every school will get 2 academic tutors, except Northwest. They instead asked for something else to get money for TSI, so we did that. Everybody had a differentiated plan. And the high school will have additional 5 academic tutors. Now, they still have their own budgets, where they are paying for maybe 2 or 3. So with our additional one, that's just something that we're adding as an extra to give them a chance to do more room time and to have more individuals there.
On your KA additional reading and math teacher, are those going to be like bilingual teachers that can address both your dual, your bilingual, and your mono?
We certainly hope they will be. We are still going to have to open it up. We're going to put that in the job description, and then we're going to see what we get back, and hopefully we'll be able to have those people, those individuals be bilingual. And one of the things we've also put is for an elementary dual language ALS lead teacher that could support the elementary schools, in addition to a special education lead teacher.
So you're asking for an elementary ALS and special ed lead teacher?
Yes, to help go to campuses, PLCs, and to help provide support. So that way we would have an elementary and a secondary with Ms. Silva.
Okay, and so that's part of this list?
Yeah, we're hoping that it'll be kind of like a Natalie Spallone counterpart for dual language.
Okay, and then on your aides, they still have to meet the requirements of, 48 college dollars?
Yes, ma'am.
To be.
So our hope is that with community college right next door at Northwest, that we can ask those individuals that are graduating with the certifications to walk on over. And
well, I know that we have some people out there, my daughter included, who are looking to get in because of the situation of you have a child that is starting school and it's hard to work elsewhere when they're off, especially if we're going to do intercession, so anyway. Reading academies are continuing, as you can see, board members. So again, I really, really do hope that you really put some emphasis on that stipend for these teachers. On operations, you have data analysis, and you mentioned something about we need somebody to be able to tell us if this child is going to need interventions. We as teachers do this every day. We do data analysis on state assessments, on common assessment, just on our everyday teaching, through observations, through progress. It's data analysis. So we group these students for tutoring. So why do we need a data analysis?
I may have misspoke. Here's Dr. Oscar Rico. Good evening, board members and Ms. Maldonado. And it might be a misnomer as to what the job title is. It says data analyst. It doesn't mean that it's somebody that is crunching numbers and preparing reports. That's something that we do on CNI, that you do on the campus level. Our data analysts are the group that works in the back department over here in IT. So they're the ones that do all the integrations, right? So all of your programs that need to run on Clever, that you have rostered in there, everything that runs through that Google platform, every time we have to add an integration. So we run about 25 different programs that we have to constantly be updating. And because of the expansiveness of programs that we're doing now, and the control that we need now for children, right? So before we only had to monitor for a certain amount of kiddos on our Google platform as they were emailing and doing Google Hangouts with one another. We want to make sure that our kids are safe while they're using these devices. So we need to have the staff to manage that. And if I keep stretching them thin, the granularity in the control becomes a little less powerful.
So this is more so for technology?
Correct.
Okay, I misunderstood.
No, I missaid it. I missaid it.
You did say that.
I didn't know how to say it.
Okay. And then the other one, which I think might be for Ms. Pikarski. You mentioned that the stipend is coming out of here, out of this money.
No, actually, you're paying less tax.
Are we?
Yes.
What is it, 25%?
If we put it on a separate check, you're gonna get 23% taken out.
And if you combine it with the base?
Then it's whatever your tax situation is. But hopefully you're not paying 23%.
Hold on. That's up to you to tell me, right?
That's not up to me, that's up to the IRS, but it depends on what you put on your withholding. So I can't say how much you're.
Right, on science.
We'll calculate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. On the science, I am so glad that you're getting lab aids. I am doing a science camp, 8 days. I mean, yes, kids missed it, the hands-on and everything, and we're doing nothing but creating robots. We're creating boats for density. We're creating carbon dioxide gas. I mean, it is awesome. 8 days, 4 hours, and they're having blasts. They're having blast. Unfortunately, I only have like 5 kids, you know, but I am so glad that you are providing those science lab aids to help. First of all, like she previously said, our labs it's been a storage for everything. So it needs to be cleaned up from the computers, Mr. Rico, that were removed from our rooms. They are stored in the science lab. So I'm hoping that all that will be taken care of by August 5th. I believe that's all I had on the ESSER. Thank you very much. You're all for your hard work.
Thank you so much. And just a reminder, this is for 2 years that we're able to fund these positions. After that, we'll have to do program evaluation, and we expect to see another A for Ken and Tia that we did address those learning losses. Anything else that I could answer for anybody?
Anybody else on the board? I do have some questions, but Mr. Pam.
No, and I just want to go on record saying, Ms. Maldonado, I'm sorry, your name?
Oh, mine? Miss Barnes, Brianne Barnes.
I really appreciate your questioning and your comments and your input.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? I do have some questions along the lines of Ms. Rocha about the hiring, that this is for 2 years. When we're talking about teachers, are they going to be hired in the regular hiring as the other teachers, or are they understanding that this is separate and it's only for 2 years?
Yes. But that's part of Rick and Martha Carrasco. We will have on these the announcement that these are contingent on federal funds. And every year those employees, Martha's here.
Yes, Mr. Coronado, the positions will be posted as ESSER funding. It will be contingent on funding. And so we'll have all that information. It's a 2-year position. All that will be known to the applicant. And at the end of the year, at the end of the period, if the funding is no longer there, then absolutely they'll be on notice that position will be closing.
Given our financial situation 2 years from now, obviously, if there's some we can keep, I guess we will, but, everything will be on posting and the individual will be aware that there's a time limit on those positions.
But we anticipate every kid will be back where they need to be. That we needed this for 2 years to close those gaps, and every kid will continue to be where they need to be. That is what our investment here.
All right, and so, and what is the game plan now for, in terms of reaching out to hire these people, because it's coming up here pretty soon?
Right, we actually have an ESSER staffing meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
We've settled and talked about, and it's myself, Ms. Carrasco, and the directors that are involved will be meeting to discuss and how we're going to get these individuals to start applying. We hope that to have everything posted, and that during the break when central office is closed, that people will be applying.
We've already talked to UTEP. Some of these.
Yes, Dr. Mean and also with EPCC, yes, Bob.
Well, good. I'm glad you guys have a plan and that you're acting really quick. You have a meeting tomorrow. The other question I have is, I know that teachers can evaluate their students, but what other method are we using to gauge any of those COVID gaps in the learning process? Besides,
right.
And how are those going to relate to the actual test?
I'm gonna ask if you could wait to the LSG presentation that's going to happen, and Dr. Kearney and her team will address that, about how we're gonna be doing assessments and making sure that kids who have a gap will get the just-in-time intervention to help them continue. So I'll let them speak on that.
All right, that's pick it up at that point. And the other issue I have is that we do, I'm glad that we have the blended math program to do that, because I think that bodes well for doing what the catch up that we need to do, because not all kids are going to be at the same level, more so now than probably at any other time. And so with respect to that, I think that attack on even the reading, like you're hiring your aides for, will probably help with that part. Is that?
Absolutely. The whole point of having the Reading Plus program, the Waterproof program, is so that we have those things that are happening with kids, and they're using that. But we usually call it in elementary win time, what I need now. And that's embedded in schedules for students to get that individual small group help.
But I'm glad that we're getting and using the aids for that, because I also don't want the other kids who maybe have not have experienced that much of a gap, and or will have any of those students, I'm sure. But we don't want them also to have a lag this year because of focus on other stuff, on people that are behind. So that's why I'm thinking that the fact that we implemented the blended math program holds well to doing exactly what we're trying to do and catch up with the COVID slide.
Yes, sir.
And the other issue that I have is that Mr. Rodriguez mentioned about the dual language. How soon do you think that we can get into transition?
You mean in middle school?
Yeah.
We have to talk probably to our principals at AMS and CMS.
Mm-hmm.
I know AMS was looking to do that as the pandemic struck. Right. So,
that's correct.
Oh, there's no way. I think you so bad.
And do we have any personnel that will focus on that from these ESSER funds?
We already have the dual language at AMS in 6th grade this year, so we're expanding to 7th grade next year, and then moving on to 8th grade.
Okay. And how much funds are being allocated to that with respect to the ESSER funds, Ms. Rocha?
At this point, we've allocated for the money for the lead teacher. We're hoping that one of the things we talked about is if we were with the stipends, but also if there was any ESSER 2 money, that we could give it to contingency at every campus an additional $50,000, which would be $1 million over 2 years, to help them purchase the supplies and things that we need. But right now we're investigating that because we're doing out of ESSER 3, $2 million there for the stock, 2.5, and so we're hoping that there may be some more monies available to us to support that.
Okay.
But one of the things we did purchase was the Reading Plus that we purchased for CHS, for students in addition to the additional, programs that we currently have.
Okay. Do you feel that that's a good, plan of attack for your program?
I do, but one of the things that make me very happy is that we need a Spanish language arts teacher, and we're already getting that as Ms. Rocha indicated.
Okay, that's one of the ESSER.
Yes, sir. That would be the dual language equivalent of Miss Scaloni, who we have for English.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board? All right. I guess, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
I have an
We
additional
have
question.
one comments, yes.
So my question was in regards to the phonics program. Do we know what phonics program we're going to be adopting?
Foundations.
Foundations?
Foundations. Foundations.
And that was decided amongst the group that you're part of throughout the state?
No, that was a district decision.
District decision.
It's required by the state, but the district gets to decide what
Which program to use, okay. And then, somebody mentioned something about this, but I think it's really important for us to think about. So as you're having your meeting tomorrow, Ms. Rocha, one of the things I talked about during the task force that I felt was really important, or I gave the feedback back to our task force person, is the fact that we need really valid incoming data on the students who are coming into our classes because of the gaps that they're going to have. So I know it's not a normal thing for us to do, and I am definitely not a proponent of over-testing our kids, but I feel like this year in particular, the very first few weeks of school, we need to have some type of district-wide evaluation on our kiddos to see where they're at and where their gaps are so that we can hit the ground running. Because usually we don't start to see those gaps, start to really identify how the students learn and things of that sort until 4, sometimes 6 weeks in, depending on the kiddo and how much they're willing to give us, at first. So I think those evaluations are going to be crucial for us to hit the ground running this year.
We always have something called district guarantees. And so what we've added this year, in addition to common assessments being a district guarantee, that the assessment calendar will be a district guarantee. We're making sure that when we say iStation needs to be done monthly, that it's happening monthly. We're waiting to see from the state if they're going to have a beginning of the year interim assessment that they gave. They gave one for last year, the middle of the year. We did one for beginning of the year. Fortunately, not everybody did it. Now we're making it a district guarantee, and I agree, we're going to need more assessments happening. We're going to, Dr. Kearney will talk about what is on the assessment calendar when we come back to school with Britt to talk about those things. They'll be posted on the website, but we're still waiting for more information from TEA. But at this point, we'll be using what we normally use, iStation, Renaissance, programs that we always have and we continue to do, eStar, MStar, to help students. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but
yes and no. I mean, in regards to Renaissance, Imagine Math, iStation, things of those sorts, they give us good data in regards to where the students are at in general, but I don't feel like they really pinpoint or give us exact data and the teaks that they need. So I feel like if we have a student that's coming up to 3rd grade, we should have some type of test over what were they supposed to learn in 2nd grade, so that we can see what gaps are they missing from 2nd, so that we can not only fill those, but then keep them up to date on our current teaks. So
we'll be waiting to see what the state provides us for beginning of the year test interim assessments.
Perfect. Thank
Okay,
you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rocha. Okay, thank you, community, for the good input and questions. Much appreciated. Thank you, Whitey, and your staff for all the work. I'm sure it's a lot different this year than in past years, and your game plan, but
Great
thank you guys for
organization.
your work. Appreciate it.
You want to chair? Well, okay, never mind.
All right.
Yes, sir. Item 6, Board of Trustee Business. 6A, Lone Star Governance Calendar, Alice G. and Future Planning. 6A1, discussion regarding the Lone Star Governance Student Outcome Goal 1, GPM 1, the percentage of grade K through 2nd students reading on.
Share with you concerning an update on our LSG goals. I'm glad to have our team here with us tonight. I have Stacy Parker, she'll be sharing on CCMR. Dr. Yita Valverde, she'll be sharing on mathematics. Natalie Spallone will share on ELAR. And Sandra Carrillo will share on K-2 progress in math and reading. And one of the tenets of LSG is student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change, starting with me, each and every one of us. And I believe that this year and last year, we saw everyone doing their part to make a difference in the lives of our students, despite what was happening with this pandemic. Everyone worked hard, and I really want to thank our principals and teachers that are here, because they really made it happen. And we really are seeing that in the results. Even though our students had challenges, we are going to share with you some data that I think you'll be pleased with. And I did give you an updated PowerPoint presentation. It's in this blue folder. I just want to make sure that you do have it. We were given some very impressive data yesterday, and I thought we should include it for your viewing. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank all of the board members for your support during the pandemic. The decisions that you made, the support you gave teachers and staff is what really helped us to achieve the outcomes that you're going to hear about tonight. So, our first slide, I want to let you know, we're looking at grade 5 star math. This is a regional comparison, and you'll notice that we are at the top as far as our performance. And that's, again, because of the work of our campuses, our teachers, all that they did. So if you want to look at that for just a second, you'll see that we are mirroring the state average and exceeding the regional average, which is, I think, very impressive. Go to the next slide. Same thing with grade 5 star Spanish. Again, exceeding the rest of the region in mathematics. Here, even exceeding the state average in mathematics, Spanish star performance. Absolutely outstanding. Next slide, we're reading. Once again, exceeding the entire region in grade 5 star reading. That's phenomenal. Next slide, also, you'll see the same thing for grade 5 star Spanish reading, exceeding the entire region within 89%. It's just outstanding. I'm just so proud of our students' performance, just to see this over and over. Grade 8 is our next slide. We're not at the top of the region, but we're among the top of the region. In grade 8 star reading. I just want to share that with you. Same thing with EOC English 1 at 65%, among the top. Not the top there, but among the top. The highest score is 66%, the state average was 66%, we had 65. Moving along to English 2, same thing, among the top score there. And I'm going quickly just because the hour is late. Same thing with Algebra 1, and Dr. Valverde will share about that. Top of the region with Algebra 1. Also Biology, as well as History, U.S. History. So despite the challenges that we faced this year, and even though we did have some drops that you will see in the master's level performance. During the pandemic, to be able to say that the district performed at the top of the region, I think that's awesome. We still have a lot of work to do, and we're ready for it. And so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and let Ms. Carrillo share first, let you all know how our K-2 students are doing. She's going to discuss Goal Progress Measure 1.
Good evening. Good evening.
And so, on the slide you can see, so the goal progress measure one was, the goal was to increase by 8% by the year 2022. Looking at iStation data, which is it's a program where students are assessed via computer software. And so right now our kinder, first, and second, if we look at iStation, reading on tier 1, which means that they're reading on grade level, in 2019 they were at 48% in kinder. And then this year, due to COVID and due to challenges, just with virtual learning, being able to monitor their progress via, having them log in, their 5-year-olds, and having, parents ensure that that's taking place. There were some challenges with that. And so they did, there was a gap, and we did decrease to 31%. And so in looking ahead to year 2022, if we look at the 31%, we find growth in going up 8%. Possibly it could be at 39%, as opposed to looking at where they were in 2019. In the lower grades, any progress that we see in those lower grades is wonderful. Ms. Rocha did mention that we did see a decline in enrollment in pre-K by 100 students. And so we're looking towards the future to make sure that those gaps, that we do close those gaps. And so one of the, programs that we do utilize is iStation, and that is in all of our elementary grades. But in addition to that, I went in and I also listed the other reading assessments that are administered in those lower grades. And just to kind of give you some background, pre-K assesses via circle progress monitoring. Kinder is the Texas KIA. Grade 1 and grade 2 is TPR FAS-led. This was the first year that first grade and second grade administered the TPR FAS-led. The state, under House Bill 3, has made a requirement that as a district, we find a assessment tool that will really focus on those foundational literacy skills. And all of these 4 assessments are administered one-on-one by the teacher with the student, which I think is very age appropriate. And I know that we have early childhood teachers in the audience, and so it's really critical that the teacher is able to sit one-on-one with the student and really see what those behaviors are. So that's why we added those additional measures in addition to iStation, where it's predominantly done on the computer. So with that, the challenges were there. Teachers had to, they were trained on the TPR FAS-led. And then they also had to either make appointments to meet with the student via Zoom, to administer the assessment. And so there were a lot of factors that we had to consider. We're hoping to increase the percentage of students reading on grade level at the end of 2022. And so in addition to continuing with professional development and looking at how we're addressing small groups, all of our K-3 teachers, and I know you've heard this throughout the evening, have had to complete the reading academies. And so the reading academies will help to close those gaps as well, because it was a very intensive year for our teachers, but it really focuses in on looking at those foundational skills and how to address small groups. We will begin to implement a new phonics program, and that's another thing that will be consistent district-wide. We had 2 campuses that had already started using Foundations phonics programs, so it's systematic and explicit instruction in phonics for grades K through 2. And so we will also be focusing on that with professional development at the beginning of the year and being able to monitor that. So in addition to all of those, we've guided reading. Pre-K has a new curriculum. We're going to continue to really build that foundation in early literacy. And I'm excited, for this incoming school year that we can really focus on increasing these scores for next year. But we wanted to just share with you just so you kind of could see that, where we're at. But like I said, we want to continue to increase that. And so with the next slide, I just kind of placed in their end of year data for pre-K through 2, just so that way you can get an idea of everything that's assessed within those ODE assessments. It is very precise in terms of focusing on those foundational skills that will help them to be on grade level. And so this data is district-wide, and so the Ds were developed, and then the SDs are still developing, or they're on track. And so this is just an idea of where we were at the end of the school year. But then kind of tying it back to Ms. Barnes, looking ahead and seeing how can we use this data at the beginning of the school year to see where those gaps are and how we can proceed and help children get on grade level.
So the goal is to be very intentional.
Yes.
So greater impact at the beginning of the year. I agree with Ms. Barnes about for the first 2-3 weeks, just assessing the heck out of these kids. They are, and so we can provide a focused learning plan.
So good evening. Again, I'm Natalie Scaloni. I have the privilege of serving as a language arts coordinator for the district. So on this slide, you'll see we'll pivot to the goal, the LSG goal that lists here by June 2022, a year from now. Students in grade levels 3 through 10 will improve reading mastery by 8%, increasing mastery from 0 to 8. So I just want to take a moment. So all the regional charts that you were shared earlier, we are ecstatic of just being the leaders in the region. But what we are listed at the top here because of our approaches percentage here. So I'm shifting to now basically the column for mastery. So we're dealing with our STAR scores. We have approaches, which is passing, approaching grade levels. Then we have meet, which is meeting grade level, and then master is that master of grade level for all the grade levels. So as I discussed this goal of the 8% increase, and whether we will remain on this goal, maybe there will be some discussion after this on whether this is still applicable in light of what we just experienced this last year. So we have what we were able to, what we accomplished in 2019 for our reading mastery percentage. And then what we just got in our 2020 reading mastery. So you'll see as you compare those columns immediately, you'll see in some cases a decrease. I will note, 5th grade, actually there was an increase in mastery. What's important with mastery is, again, this is at the highest level. When we talk about accountability, we also earn more points when students are passing at the mastery level. So for 5th grade, and all of the question to how did this happen, it was our teachers, all the time spent with all the questions that they've given us, and even the advice that you'll see as we continue to grow, they are the ones, they are our experts, and they're the ones that have made all this happen, this magic happen really. So 5th grade, I'm proud we get to offer for English language arts that there was an increase in mastery level there. Also, there was an increased mastery in English 1 and English 2. So even though in the region it looked like we were maybe second, in mastery we had a gain within a pandemic with the virtual instruction. So what our teachers did is phenomenal. I'm just, I wish they were all here, and I can't wait to see them. But in that sense, so when I have listed their potential reading goals, again, that's going to be based on their expertise and your expertise and as a team. So we have this 8%, but I'm very much hoping that we can come together and decide whether I just put a potential goal there, I tacked an 8 to some positions there. But I also was analyzing this morning, and we also just got some state results, and I started thinking, well, if the state said this for this grade level, maybe that's the 8. But I don't know what this 8 is going to be, if that's
exactly, but we are going to strive, we're going to accelerate, not remediate, but what that number is, I think we're all gonna need to figure that out together after this discussion. But, in general, this is what we can report for LSG, for mastery, for grades 3 through, actually 10. And Tristan, you probably remember English 1 and English 2 not so long ago. They're very challenging tests. Historically in the state, they have 6 reporting categories, and they have reading and writing embedded in it. It's a very challenging test, and to be able to do this within the school year is, again, a praise to our teachers and our students that did the work. So I will pass it on to our math. Are there questions for me?
Anybody? What, just out of curiosity, besides, I know you probably haven't had a chance to disaggregate within the grade 5, English 1 and English 2, but.
What happens at 10?
Yeah.
That's not to say that any, I know that literacy, we work to keep the literacy going in the midst of all of this. Very much, all of you, I remember sitting home watching Zoom, and I'm so happy to actually be here with you. But literacy on the computer is not the same as hard copy literacy as well. But our teachers did not let them stop that. We turned on programs like Maya, and even as you're having questions about, well, there's Nearpod and there's Seesaw, because we wanted to turn on anything and everything that would work for that teacher to make that connection with that student. So we did have still some hurdles with getting it turned on and access and connecting with it. Our hope is that we get back to the classroom. It's not our hope, it's our intent. We purchased level book rooms, I don't know if y'all recall, it was in the summer of 2019. So scholastic book rooms for all 6 elementaries, and we train on guided reading. So what we're going to have the privilege of doing is now getting to have one-on-one small group instruction with students with leveled book rooms as other students are rotating through the class. So we didn't quite have that advantage at the beginning. That was just a hard thing to do on the computer. I think we still have our early child here in that way. So in some of those instances, so like this 3rd grade, think about it, these are 2nd graders that in that latter half of the year were at home. And then some came, some were on remote the whole year. So that also can explain some of that. 5th grade, you've had a couple of years already in school, the adaptation in that way. You're reading, you're no longer learning to read, but you're reading to learn in that way. So at those more secondary levels, we've also acquired those reading skills.
Just remember your 5th grade. What did you do?
I didn't teach reading. I taught math and science. But kudos to my colleagues there in 5th grade. They busted their behinds with the kiddos very, very hard to address the reading through the computer. And when they came back face to face, Ms. Moreno, the dual language, would keep kids till 5 o'clock because they would load.
They would emails, Ms. Bologna and Ms. Computer, please make me a co-teacher of this so that I can get these kids, and let's give anything and everything they asked, we would do whatever but they were the ones that were putting it into practice. We were just making sure it was turned on and accessible to them.
Do we have a way to measure whether, how many, in terms of the students' presence in any way to measure that had an indication of?
Physically versus virtually? Is that what you're asking? I
Probably not.
don't know. I mean, even when we look at the numbers that actually took the STAR, that were actually present, it is still a low number. We didn't have our full enrollment. So, I don't have an answer.
This is going to be a difficult year to really.
But it is definitely, and I'm not big on being forceful with assessment, but we do need to know where they are, working at data profiles. That's a district guarantee as well. Figuring out what do we know and how much more can we know as fast as we can get that. So we're working towards that. So.
Okay, all right.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Davies, everyone in the audience. I feel very humbled to give you such good news today, because I believe that it shouldn't be me speaking these words, but all the teachers in the classrooms, all the principals who were as busy as everyone was, always found the time on a Saturday, on a weekend, late at night, to push and to provide the support that we needed to continue learning. And we all talked about learning continuity when the COVID hit us, and it really did happen. And our numbers today are, well, they illustrate the efforts from an entire community. I'm here to tell you today that our 5th math, it's in the top of the region. Our 8th math, it's in the top of the region. Our Algebra 1 scores, Ms. Bologna, Christian was telling you about how hard English is. Well, Algebra 1 is the #1 failed class in the nation. And we stand at the top of the region and within the top of the state. And it's just very humbling to tell you that, because it has been so much work from so many committed people in this community. We had our losses in math, like everybody else. We expected losses. Truthfully, the losses are not as bad as we thought they would be, because in math particularly, we lacked small group instruction. We lacked a lot of conceptual understanding that comes with the use of manipulatives and things that our students were used to having. And we all became first-year teachers when the pandemic hit. I know how to teach math. I've been teaching math all my life, and when suddenly someone asked me, how do you teach fractions without showing them what they are, we all became new at it. And we turned to the research, and there was very little. We turned to the region. We worked as a team. We worked with our community. Our team came together. We provided them with the opportunity to have grade level PLCs. We provided them with the opportunity to have PLCs so that all 3rd grade math teachers could have a chance to collaborate, not just the ones from their own school, but everyone as a region, as a district. And so you will see on that slide that algebra dropped from 49% in that what we had in 2019 to 23.5. I think it's worth mentioning something that is very important to note here that the data won't tell us. We have the highest access to Algebra 1 in the region. From 2019, we had 118 students in that algebra class, and despite of the pandemic, we increased our access to 207 children who were enrolled in an algebra class and took that algebra start. And although our mastery level dropped, the number of students who approached went from 117 to 186. Our numbers and percentage are dropping. However, I do believe that has a lot to do with the higher access that we give to all these children. And that is just outstanding. Just like Ms. Bologna said, I wish they were here, because this is news for us. We received this news this morning, and I wish my team was here, and I couldn't wait to call them yesterday when we found out about algebra and just share how proud I felt and how humbled I felt to work alongside with them and with a group of ladies that you see here, with Dr. Delavis, with Ms. Rocha. It has really taken so much work together and the support of each other. We have been recognized in math in several ways this year, and well, we became a math innovation zone in the midst of this pandemic, and that is a very, it's a great recognition to receive from the state. We received another grant from the Bill and Melinda Foundation to continue supporting our math goals. We have 75% of the 6th graders enrolled in an advanced math pathway, and that's huge. We're the only ones doing that. And there was a lot of fear that came with that, and I'm very optimistic about our goals. When we sat together, and let me go to the next slide, please. When we sat together and we thought about what our goals for the following school year should be, I think that we'll exceed this goal, just like we exceeded the 8% before, because we have the best teachers in the region, without a doubt. We do. For math, and I continuously email my supervisors to let them know these teachers are golden for our district, literally. All these goals that I present to you today is to come back to where we were before the pandemic. I'm sure we'll be able to exceed that, but I want to set goals that will be very realistic and won't put an additional burden on our teachers. I know that they'll uphold and exceed any goals that we set tonight. We have another partnership happening with Free. They were
essential in a lot of the work that we did. And what they're doing for us now is supporting us to develop sustainability, because now that we're in a way eradicating Algebra 1 from the high school, we will need to build capacity in dual credit credentialing, in AP credentialing, everything that I'm doing, we're doing it in collaboration with Ms. Carrillo from Early Childhood, with Ms. Parker sitting on my left from Advanced Academics. Our Math and Revision Zones ranges from pre-K through 8. So that's going to address a lot of the concerns that were voiced by Ms. Barnes tonight about wanting to have that continuous data. This is not one single standalone assessment, but this is information that we get, and it's live and it's dynamic and it's updated every time that our students are working on that platform. Because Math Innovation Zones, at its core, it's all about personalized instruction and small group instruction, which is what we need to recover from this pandemic. Our Algebra 1's goal for next year is very attainable, an increase of only 7% to be back at state recognition, which is where we were before the pandemic. That's all for math tonight. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Anybody have any questions?
I have more of a comment that I'll wait till the whole,
Okay.
the whole show.
Ready? That's really great. That's really great news to hear about our, and I guess in terms of what you're saying, that the assessments, because we included more students, I think we're probably the only ones in the region that have done that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We include them all, correct?
Yes, sir. Other districts are reaching out to us. We're working with Favens, we're working with Tornillo, the university here at UTEP had us present to other districts in the community, because they're reaching out and saying, what are you doing to make this work? I think the answer lies, it's our teachers. We happen to have the best. It's our teachers.
Well, great, and the fact that you mentioned that now we need to start building more capacity in the higher, I'm talking about high school in terms of what you mentioned for dual credit and stuff. I know we've been doing that since 10 years ago, increasing focus on getting those stipends for the math and for the dual credit. So I think we're right on point for that. We need to, we've been doing it, but we need to focus on getting more of it and attracting more of these teachers that can do that. Because we're going to have a lot of students moving up that will be able to maybe get into those dual credit. Right on point. Mr. Payne.
Yes, ma'am. I was going to ask you a question. On the grade 6, 2019, it was 16%. 2021, 1%. Okay, I understand that because of the pandemic. Is that what it is?
Yes and no. Thank you for your question. It is, I want to say that if you look at that 6th grade row, you should look at it in conjunction to the Algebra 1 row. And the reason for that is because only a quarter of our 6th grade students are actually doing 6th grade math. So you're looking at a child that's at a 6th grade level completing a more advanced math class. And that has a lot to do with that. So the children that are actually tested for 6th grade are all of the higher performing students. We don't double test our students, right? So all of the higher performing 6th grade students are now taking a more advanced class. So those students would not have tested on that STAR test.
That's a good thing to make, and additionally, the fact that we're testing all of them on the Algebra 1 as opposed to other districts, we're getting a skewed comparison with respect to the other districts, right?
Correct, sir. And I think that another thing that's important to note is that despite the fact that we don't double test our students, which we know is a common practice at other districts, we could have our 6th grade students who are taking 8th grade math right now. We could test them on 6th grade math and inflate our scores, but we don't do that. And despite of that, we outperform the rest of the districts.
Yeah.
And that needs to be noted.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, kudos to you guys for these results. Great. I mean, yeah, we had a decrease because of COVID, but so did everybody. But I'm glad to see that that we're hanging in there. So, do you feel that part of part of the issue was that all of the students had access to the connectivity and their computers and laptops?
Our usage on our adaptive program, it's very close to our enrollment numbers. So our students have access to that. But in learning math and in learning a rigorous curriculum like the one that we offer, it is very inquiry-based. It is very project-based. You would normally see in a math classroom that a teacher shows how to do a problem, and then the students do 100 drills, and that's what the workbook looks like. In our curriculum, the students are working together, and you can actually see that in our textbooks. Our students are doing manipulatives, they're building things, it's project-based. It was very difficult to complete that task in the absence of live face-to-face instruction. So I would mostly attribute it to that.
Okay. Right. Understood. Any further questions from the board? No? All right, who is next?
Good evening, board. I'm Stacy Parker. I'm going to share college, career, military readiness, which is kind of where we all come to this eventually. I think we're doing well. I want to bring your attention to the chart with the blue boxes. Let me preface it by saying that the data is from March. We don't have all of this data yet. There's a lot of pieces that we're waiting to plug in. But if you look at that chart, the blue bar is us, that's Kenutio, and the yellow-brown line, that's the state. So that was very exciting to me, that even though all the data is not in, we're above the state on the college and career readiness. And then to the right of that, I broke that down by the grade level with the actual percentages for you to see. So I am confident that once we get all of our data, for example, the AP scores don't come until mid-July, first or second week of July. So there's just a lot of data that we're still accumulating. And so when that comes in, I think those numbers are going to jump and we'll all be very, very pleased. So being on goal for 75% of our seniors next year, I think we'll be there, if not above that. That's my prediction. And then moving on to TSI passing numbers, which is a part of our college and career readiness. TSI was very difficult this year. It was not an exam that you could do remotely. It was something that we had to get our students to come in. So first of all, kudos, we had students who were remote learners who came to school just to take this assessment. So that was very impressive of our kids and our families. The test had changed in January. It was significantly longer, more complex. We hadn't seen it yet. There was a lot that made TSI just a real tough thing for us this year. With all that happening, both high schools are doing summer boot camps. They're working with those students right now who were very close to having success on the test. Students who need a lot of help are getting that right now. And then we're continuing to retest. The TSI is a type of test that you can take multiple times. And having a passing score in the TSI is what allows students to take the dual credit classes or to take the dual credit classes at the early college high school. One of the other things that we did in C&I is Miss Poloni and I, we had some one-on-one conversations with 8th graders. Our 8th graders also took the TSI as they have the last 2 years. We had a group of about 42 were this close to passing. And I really felt it had more to do with their stamina. For the most part, they had been at home all year. They had come to school to take this very long test. And when I looked at that data, to me, I just think they got tired. So Ms. Poloni and I had one-on-one Zoom conversations / tutorials with these students. And a group of those kiddos came back last Monday, and I have another small group coming in this Monday to retake the test after a little bit of that interaction. So hopefully we can send them off to their respective high schools ready to go. Yeah, that's that. I'm kind of lost my thought. We're going to continue with the 8th graders next year. We're looking at a plan. We're building that right now to incorporate TSI testing at the 8th grade level perhaps that intercession week, asking the kids to come in with a big build up before that with a college awareness activity. So that's all still in the works. But we're going to continue to work with those 8th grade students. Hopefully we'll have more and more students ready for the dual credit classes right out freshman year, ready to go. So we had some dips in the numbers, but considering everything that the kids went through, I'm still very proud of their efforts.
Okay. I have a question about the different approaches that both the early college, high school, and the high school use in terms of preparation for the exam.
In what do they do?
Yeah, what is the difference?
During the school year, they both have a prep class for students who haven't had success with the test yet. That class, after they take that class, they test again. And usually that helps those students. The boot camp is for those students who are rising 9th graders who are coming up, or for other going into 10th grade. The population at boot camp is a little bit bigger this year because of what happened with COVID and not having the hands-on with the students.
You have a lot of them in the summer now doing that?
They have been. They've been rotating them through at both campuses the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
So it's something we're aware of that needs to be done.
Ms. Clapsack.
Hi, how are y'all?
Good, you?
The high school, we have continued to TSI test since January when we were able to start bringing kids back in pods. And we've been running a 2-week boot camp. And we've actually picked up some of the 8th graders. We had them go ahead and come over. We were able to use some of our old, what was our old 196 money, which is our college readiness. And we ordered books. We got access to the TSI tutorial programs on the computer, and we got flashcards that we were able to give the kids. So we've been working with them all last week and this week, and then once we get our final numbers, we'll be able to let y'all know how that boot camp went. It was the first time that we did that. But we really did target down into sophomores and freshmen, and we are opening up or starting or initiating, whatever word you'd like to use, the Caney-Teal High School Collegiate Academy. And so to graduate with that honor, that distinction, that recognition, a student has to complete a minimum of 24 dual credit hours at the high school, which we have plenty of classes for them to be able to do that. Our highest graduate this year completed 44 hours. And probably could have completed more, like I said, had it not been for COVID. But we're opening up some science sections, which a lot of high schools don't have dual credit science, and we do have teachers, because of CREED, that are going to be able to teach dual credit science classes at the high school. So we're continuing to build that, and again, having our Collegiate Academy starting this year.
How many classes do we have that are working with credit at the high school?
At the high school, I have 14. I just got a list that I shared with Dr. Galavis a few days ago.
Okay.
So.
Well, good. And so you're using then some of the target programs that your college high school is also using?
Correct, but we don't have the intervention class,
right.
that TS, we don't have that. We do ours separately after school. We do boot camps and things like that. But now with these resources that we were able to order, we'll be able to really, the kids can work on the boot camp piece at home as well. So we'll be able to have them do that, plus give them that support on campus. We just don't have that separate class, because at the early college, they've got to have that TSI so they can graduate.
Yeah, they have to do it right away, and I noticed they just jump on that right away.
Correct.
I'm glad that we're getting the 8th graders to go to the boot camp and try and bring them in as soon as possible.
Yes.
So glad that that's happening. What, Mr. Rodriguez?
Just in regards to, I mean, it's great work. I really commend you all's hard work, especially during these times, right? You know, it's important when you're looking at LSU, right? Student outcomes won't change unless adult behaviors change. But I think for us, focusing on this is really important. And then being able to see some of the goals that we've had over the years. You know, we've created early college. Now it's how do we infuse the high school model with early college by supporting to make sure we have more full credit certified teachers, AP, working with the business community, being able to look at stipends. And so for us is how do we continue to level up, right, and really grow that. I think you all are doing an amazing job, especially where we've been at over the last couple of years, that we're continuing to level up and making sure that we're a premier district. Dr. Valdez, you and your staff has really leveled up, put it that way. And we appreciate it. I apologize for tonight's meeting, but I think we really need to celebrate a lot of the victories, and hopefully we're sharing that within our community. Thank you.
I just want to bring up a question unrelated to math. One of them is, are you having boot camps? I know I hear a lot about boot camps in the lower grades at all for I guess the math and the algebra. The other question is algebra 2, geometry, trigonometry, physics, and all of those higher level classes, courses in that. How are they doing? How are you? Are there kids involved in these classes, or can you give me a number related?
Yes, sir. Those are very, very good questions. My original presentation did not cover a lot of that because of time, but I'm really happy that you asked. We do have a boot camp. To answer your first question, we do have a boot camp. It's happening now. What we do is that we use several metrics that we have in place. One of them is very well known, very reliable. It's called E-Star, N-Star, and we start tracking our students in math. It specifically focuses on algebra readiness, and we start doing that starting second grade. So we test them 3 times a year, and it's a very special type of assessment because it does not assess all math, but just algebra readiness in isolation of maybe other math concepts like probability and statistics that maybe has little to do with algebra reasoning. And so we collect that data, it's longitudinal data, and it really gives you a really beautiful graph that tells you that a child will do well in an Algebra 1 class at the end of middle school. And we use that data to select those students. That's how we've increased our pipeline. And we identify those students early on. We do make interventions at the elementary early on. The teachers have access to that data. They have their individual accounts to get that. And when we finally identify them, those lists are provided to the principals. Ms. Davila, Mr. Judge, principals at both middle schools, very happy to work with them, and they've made an amazing team together. They've brought a lot of unity to what happens in both middle schools, really. And what we do is that we have a transition boot camp. It's a special boot camp it serves several purposes. One, it avoids the summer slide that later on became augmented with COVID. And it's just a nice transitioning period. So what our students do is that the 5th grade student going on to 6th grade gets to work with his future math teacher for 2 weeks, and they work on essential foundational skills for algebra readiness using that N-Star data. So we do have those boot camps happening at both middle schools, and that was your first question. Going on to your second question about algebra 2, we tier our students in math. And so we do have students that have the potential to do well in algebra. I presented before the board in the past, and we all saw that we had mastery level somewhere around 90%, which was amazing. But that meant that we could really pull the string a little more because our data continued being so good, and our teachers felt that they could do it. And our data showed that they could do it when we gave them an opportunity and increased that access. So what we have is that in this tier program, the students that are at the top of that, which is a quarter of our middle school population right now, will end up taking Algebra 2 at the end of middle school. Now, all these algebra access sets a different story for what the metric is for college readiness in math in high school. When a student completes Algebra 1 in middle school, that's no longer the high school accountability. So now the high school accountability for that child becomes, it's amazing, because now our accountability is SAT, TSI, ACT, meaning that our focus is, we've raised the bar to something that is more significant, more impactful than the students ultimately to be able to access that college. So that's what we have. I think I've answered all 3 of your questions, Helen.
The geometry, trigonometry classes.
So we don't have anything, no boot camp or anything like that happening in the past. We have had conversations with Green to use the same approach that has worked in the past, but we're not there yet. Definitely something to consider and to work as we move forward, but we're not there yet.
Yeah? Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you. Is that Dr. Kearney?
Yes, so I just want to thank our team for their presentations tonight. We're very optimistic about our student performance and how we're going to be able to see our students perform moving forward. And we are recommending that maybe the board have a workshop in the future, the near future, to revise the goals to make them more realistic based on what we've experienced in COVID. So
I've already indicated to the board and administration that we need to have a something here pretty soon to powwow about what we're going to do in terms of not just reassessing the what our current goals are, but maybe even adding some more thinking. What I feel with this test that the testing does that the state requires to do, I think there's a benefit to it when we talk about the changes and how we increase from it, but what it does for us, I don't know. And so after that effect, I think we seriously need to consider other goals. And we're doing great in that respect, but I think we need to, step it up. Mr. Payan.
That's right. Before I distract, again, back to math. You say we're not up to that level in trigonometry, geometry. Why not?
Not that we're not on that level, sir. So when our students take, we don't have boot camps. And to answer your question, we don't have a program where we support boot camps. But when our students take the TSI exam, or when our students take the SAT exam, which is what our new accountability looks like for all these large group of students, there are 2 math classes that are assessed on those exams, and they are Algebra 1 and Geometry. So we had the first cohort that graduated from middle school sitting in a geometry, they sat in a geometry class this past school year. We need to test those students, obtain that data. And the reason, what I mean when I tell you that we're not there yet, we're building the pipeline. And our highest cohort right now just completed geometry. We need to see our TSI scores, how they come back, and the interventions that we need to put in place. As we continue to increase the access, we'll continue to increase the number of classes that we'll offer for those students, the interventions that we offer for those students as we continue to prepare our staff to do that. We have teachers that have taught Algebra 1 all their lives, and that we need to work with them on that, and that's where the next intervention or the next proposal with CREE would come.
Mr. Payan, in answer to your question, we do have at the high school, I can only speak for the high school, we do have dual credit pre-cal that our students can take. We don't offer trigonometry anymore. Generally, our kids go Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. Once they complete that Algebra 2, then we can TSI test them for the math portion. But we do have the AP Cal classes, and we do have the dual credit calculus classes as well. So for those students who are performing at that level, we do have those advanced classes for them as well.
How many kids are involved?
There aren't a lot. Unfortunately, those classes, probably in dual credit math, we generally have about 2 sections, usually about 15 to 20 in each one. But the majority of those classes are for kids that are going to major in math or science majors when they go to college. And so that's where or kids that just want to get that math out of the way before they go to college. Yeah.
Or if you're going to be a lawyer.
Sure, or if you want to be a pre-law major.
As we all agree, and anyway.
But Mr. Payan,
the future is going to demand more of these.
Yes, sir, and that's the key. All of these increments in middle school will have an impact in our senior population in the long run. Our first cohort, and what I mean by that is our first large cohort where many more students went into the high school with advanced math, knocking out algebra early on, Now we just completed geometry. As the years pass, 3 more years, you're going to see that AP class more populated than what Ms. Clapton shared, only because our students didn't have enough time in the past. Our high school sequence is as follows. Our traditional high school sequence. The student would go in and they would take Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Pre-Calc. And they're going your 4 years of high school. So they didn't have enough time in their high school time to be able to have access to AP calculus for those classes. And that is the reason why our enrollment in those classes was a lot smaller. So as we continue to build a pipeline, you're going to see those increments and more students taking AP statistics, AP computer science, AP calculus. So what I mean when I tell you we're not there yet is that we need time so that the pipeline continues growing. But our pipeline is continuing to grow. Our preliminary enrollment is already there. We do have 76% of the next coming school year, 6th graders enrolled in that advanced math pathway. And we're going to start seeing a trend, right, in our AP calculus class. And so what I mean by, we do have teachers that are credentialed, but we're going to need more as more students start having access to those classes because they'll knock out the prerequisite early on.
And we need to celebrate those successes, but we need to, like my cohort here says, we need to level up. The future is going to demand it, and we need to give our kids that pathway. And the sooner we do it, the faster we do it, and whatever you need, I think we need to support you in every way we can.
And that's exactly, I think, what we need to have that planning session for reassessing our goals, to have a workshop. And I think the future for us is to require, rather than focus that we have to have, because that's what they grade us on from the state, is the testing. But if we can get the dual credit, and we can increase the hours in taking kids get the dual credit classes, not just in the math, but in other classes. That's what I want to see for our kids, because if our kids are passing dual credit, the dual credit classes in math, the testing is going to take care of itself.
If they can qualify for Notre Dame and BYU, the sky is the limit. I think if one of those 2-3 kids can do it, we need to get half of them up there. Thank you.
If I may, I'm a language person. I just thought it was a nice closure to accelerate, not remediate. Very much what we're doing with instruction this next year. So we keep going, we add that level of rigor. And then in those moments, if you find a misconception on the spot, one-on-one in person, and that's our opportunity to just keep soaring. So, and we thank you for our time, our time, everyone's time, and we appreciate this late hour together. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Teachers and our staff have accomplished this year from these years. They got it. I think you guys deserve, all of you, and our teachers especially, deserve Thank you guys. Thank you. Look forward to our powwow meeting workshop.
You guys have mail?
Okay. Next agenda item.
Yes, sir. Discussion and possible action regarding nominations for TASB board position, Region 19.
Mr. Rodriguez, you want to tell us about this since you're on the TASB board?
It's every 3 years, renewal to be on the TASB board as Region 19 director, and I also will be submitting to be a second vice president of the Texas Association of School Boards. So this has to come first, and then hopefully in the summer I continue that track to represent county and Region 19 as well, the state of Texas.
So this is what you to nominate you to that position.
It keeps me to stay on track to.
And you're now the
secretary treasurer.
That's a great accomplishment.
I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. I will at this point take any nominations from the board for the Region 19 board position.
I so move.
nominate Ms. Rodriguez? All right,
I'll second the motion.
all right. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any, before we take up on that motion, do we have any other nominations besides this one? Hearing none, then we do have a motion before the board to nominate Mr. Rodriguez to the TASB clerk position, Region 19. Sonia, please pull the board.
Yes, sir. Mr. Coronado.
Yes?
Mr. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza.
Yes.
Mr. Payan.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
And Mrs. Searles.
No.
Motion passes.
All right. That takes us to the next agenda item.
Yes, sir. Item number 7, consent agenda. Administration recommends approval as presented.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve our consent agenda this evening as presented.
All right. Second motion. We have a motion and a second on agenda item 7. Sonia, please.
Mr. Chair, no, I would like to pull out, October 25th board meeting minutes.
Mr. Rodriguez, you want to pull out which one?
7A1B.
7A1A?
1B.
B?
The May 25th, I had a question in regards to questions that Ms. Searles brought up against the Mexican American School Board Association.
And did you already call did you call already?
Yes.
All right, these are the 7A1B.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
All right, then we have a motion before the board, and it's been seconded. With respect to Mr. Rodriguez's request, I guess I should have asked first if anybody wanted to pull any, but and I guess I'll pull the board with respect to taking Mr. Rodriguez's request for, before we take up the motion, to approve the consent agenda. Then, excuse me?
Just pull that item.
We just pulled it. Okay, I should have asked first. I apologize to the board. But let's pull in for the request of Mr. Rodriguez, agenda item 7A1B, before we entertain the motion on the consent agenda. Mr. Rodriguez.
Just real quick, I've been watching, there's this commercial that I've been watching, and it says if you hear of a racist comment or if you see a racist action, you need to call it. You need to make sure people understand. There was a question asked by Ms. Searles if the Mexican American School Board Association was raised. If the MASBA mission and vision statement, what is Latinx? Is it okay for public funds of this only serve Latin students? Please see attachment. And it talks about the vision and mission of the Mexican American School Board Association, which advocates for all students served by our Texas public schools, particularly those previously designated as Mexican American, Hispanic students, Spanish speaking English language learners, and that's the majority of our community. I don't like to hide behind staff or political opponents, as Ms. Searles does. And before you try to play the victim, my community has been the victim of your actions and your mindset. And I like to lead with facts and not rumor arguments. A couple of years ago, we talked about the partnership we had with Creed, and they came to the board talking about that 20% of our kids go to college, but yet,
Mr. Chair, this is on the agenda.
yes, it was. It's on the minutes. It's on the minutes.
It's on, if it's part of the minutes.
Let me finish.
Part of the minutes that was, Ms. Searles, I'm gonna give Mr. Rodriguez just 3 minutes.
20% go to college, but yet Ms. Searles made a comment that 1/4, not bad, that we needed plumbers and we needed farmers. 1/4, that's 1 out of our 4 kids. First of all, that's not 20%. 20% is 1/5. What they were trying to say is that 20% of our kids were going to college, but yet they weren't succeeding in college. And that number is a lot less. Another was passing a resolution saying that low-income students are a hinder to our community. The other was the purchase of the property. The comments that she made to individuals talking about that she didn't want to put hand clothes on clotheslines or on the fence, and no low-income housing with a bunch of kids running around. Rumors continue to say that I have a conflict of interest, and I've never even known the person that we sold. But yet, Ms. Searles, that has a conflict of interest that's behind that property, kicked out the attorney and superintendent in middle school, and that position, that office was supposed to be a middle school, central office, and a career in tech. Never was it designed for that, but they, of course, her agenda approved otherwise. Don't forget about your hypocrisy when you work on representing our community on a Hispanic state and national level. This was obvious for your mindset that it was to represent our, not to represent our community, but to represent your people. And before you fly to flip the script, people in our community need to know that I do love and appreciate the community. So,
Mr. Ramirez, the pulling of the minutes is only to correct them, so if you have.
I'm gonna add this.
Didn't you just take an ethics course? On how to behave?
This is only to correct the minutes. If you have something, point out the minutes.
I'm gonna add it to what is Latinx.
You're gonna add
Yeah.
the minutes? You wanna add to the minutes?
Yeah, I think it's important for them to know.
I wasn't even at the meeting.
Well, you requested this.
No. I wasn't at this meeting, you know?
All right,
In regards to the minutes.
yeah, but the pulling of the agenda item for, as it stands on 7A1D is only if you wanna make any corrections or additions to the minutes. That was not part of the actual meeting.
And I did not attend the meeting.
Ms. Searles, he has the floor right now. I will get to you if you'd like to comment, but please, let's hold the court.
And the reason why I was gonna pull the agenda item at the board meeting to discuss this item, that I was not present because I had to attend, since we switched LSD.
Okay, I don't think it's germane to be able to discuss that right now, but if you want to discuss it, we can. You can always put an agenda item so we can discuss that particular issue.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be today, but I think what you're doing right now is not appropriate because it's not to add to the meeting minutes or to change them to, because they're somehow inaccurate or incomplete.
What I was trying to add was the fact that I was gonna pull the agenda item to discuss this item and then present those, but since I was not there.
I understand that, but
So then,
that's another avenue you can choose, but not in this.
So I would have to put in the.
You can put an agenda item for that if you'd like to do that, certainly. Well, then, okay. All right.
So, Mr. Coronado.
Ms. Searles.
Question now.
Yes.
We've just been through the elections. We've just been through, we're all gonna get along. We've just been through this. Why's he starting to stir up trouble? And I wasn't at the, I know.
Okay.
I wasn't at the meeting.
I'll ask for the
I understand. Hold on, Mr.
And there
Rodriguez.
shouldn't be an agenda item to, that I've got a target on my back. If anything's horrible, that's horrible.
I think we all need to stop this.
It's ridiculous.
But Ms. Searles, frankly, you've been part of it too. Okay? But I don't want to discuss that here. This is not the place to discuss it. If you guys want to do it, we need to do it at a regularly called meeting when it's called for ethics or board training. Okay? Or if we have an issue. But I'm telling you right now, you're part of it. You're throwing mud, but you've been part of it yourself, Ms. Searles. I don't want to hear that right now. We all need to come together as a board and stop doing this. All right? Period. All of us. Okay? And so this is not the appropriate time to do this.
I agree.
Okay, so then let's stop it. Okay, there's no finger pointing here, Ms. Searles. We're gonna take care of this. We can do this in an agenda item down the road. We need to really seriously think about, we've been doing this. We could have done this at the board training for 2 days. You didn't show up. I'm sorry. That's the time to handle it, not now.
I think you handle it.
Both of you.
I'm not complaining about this.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you, we could have taken care of it, and you were the only one that didn't show up.
Mr. Chair.
So let's stop it. I don't want to hear any more about it. If it's on this agenda item,
let's take it up. If not, if you want to add to it, I don't want any more comment unless it's about agenda item 7.1B to add or correct the minutes. Anybody have anything on that? Hearing none, then we will then move that onto the motion before the board. It's agenda item 7, consent agenda. We have a motion and a second.
Yes, sir.
Sonia, please pull the board.
Yes, sir. Mr. Coronado.
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza.
Yes.
Mr. Payano.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
And Mrs. Searles.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. That takes care of that agenda item. Next agenda item, Sonia.
Yes, sir. Item number 8, adjournment, and the time is 9:27.
All right. Thank you, board. Thank you, community.